What's happening, everyone? Let's just do a quick sound check because I switched scenes and OBS has been weird today. Looks like mine is good. Oh, it looks like you guys are good.
Hello.
So, as you can tell, I'm wearing sunglasses today. I am not trying to be cool. I'm dealing with a really rough headache, and just so that you can see me, I have my polarized sunglasses on so I can deal with my lighting. So, I'm going to turn this right over to Sammy. Take it away, sir.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of What's the Crack, a Dungeon Master roundtable stream where we talk about the Unearthed Arcana documents that Wizards of the Coast have released, associated with the used to be called 1D&D, but they're just like basically revamping 5th edition at this point. That comes out next year. So basically, these streams, these episodes are designed to break down those UA documents, say what we like, say what we don't like, kind of discuss changes that we want to see. Like I said, this is our 5th episode. Today, we're going to be talking about the Bard, Rogue, and Ranger from the most recent UA, which is UA 6. And then we'll be finishing off by talking about the Warlock, which is from UA 5. What we're going to do first is we're just going to go around everyone and do some quick intros just to say who you are and kind of just a quick breakdown of your experience as a dungeon master. I'll start. I am Sam or Sammy. You'll see me most Saturdays here on RolePositiveGaming during the Strixhaven stream where I play Charlotte Briarsong, the Frost Elf Blade Singer wizard. But I'll be your host today. I don't have much DM experience myself. In fact, I've only done one 3-shot, but I have played 5th edition since its inception pretty much. So I can hold my own, hopefully, with these guys. But yeah, we'll throw it over to Rhiannon first. Rhiannon is our newest DM today.
Hello.
So we're very happy to have Rhiannon on board. But yeah, Rhiannon, take it away.
Thanks. So I've been playing D&D 5th edition since it came out because I'd been struggling with 4th edition a lot. I have been a player for very many years, but I've only been a DM for the last 3 years. I've done a couple streamed games which are tucked away, I think, on a YouTube somewhere. But now I mostly just do home games or games on Start Playing. And yeah, I'm very well versed in a lot of the rules. I'm very well versed in a lot of homebrew stuff. I've made like a lot of homebrew items as well, blending them in with D&D. So I'm really excited to talk about balancing and other strats that are coming out with Unearthed Arcana.
Nice. Thank you for that. We'll go Bex next.
Oh, okay. Oh man, gotta compete with such a great introduction. Hi. Hi, I'm Bex. I've been DMing for about the same amount of time I've been playing. I picked up Pathfinder First Ed just as soon as I got like a little taste of playing D&D. So I jumped straight into DMing pretty early on. So I've been doing it for about 8 years or so. I play D&D almost every day of the week with a bunch of different people in a bunch of different games. So I definitely think I've got it pretty down pat. It's definitely one of the things I like enjoy most. So yeah, that's me.
Nice. Jack?
Hello, I'm Jack. I started playing in 2017 Austin Uni, and I started DMing at the back end of 2020. So I've been DMing for nearly 3 years. I DM with the Fate of the Dice channel. I currently have a bi-weekly Curse of Strahd campaign, which you can check in the. I think there's a link in the description for the channel. And yeah, I've run a few campaigns for Sam and for Jordan. They currently play my Descent into Avernus campaign. Not streamed, I'm afraid, but all good fun nonetheless. And yeah, it's me.
Nice, thank you very much, Jack. Jordan, over to you.
Hello, I'm Jordan. I have been DMing for 11 years. I keep having to think about it. Shouldn't be too hard. I started when I was 16. No. And yeah, I'm also the DM over at twitch.tv/Bridges and Brigands, where I DM for some of these lovely people. And that's me.
Matt, you want to round us out?
What, you're not going to call me old again?
No.
I'm Matt. I actually am the owner of this stream, this channel, and RolePositiveGaming. I've been playing D&D since D&D started. So I've been running games for as long, so that's about 43 years. And I've even had the privilege of sitting at a game table with Gary Gygax himself. So yeah, I've been doing this a little while, and I've seen pretty much every version of Dungeons and Dragons, and have been running games continuously since I started at 8 years old. And yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. Sammy, if you just also want to just plug out the the charity when you get a chance, just so people know what that's going on.
Yeah, so when we first started these, it was kind of just the boys. We wanted to really kind of ramp up our, diversity here on RPG. Actually, about 90% plus of the actual cast that you'll see on Matt's games are LGBTQ, but almost none of them were dungeon masters. So we really tried to step up our game. We had Bex on last session, and we were really thankful for that and happy to have you back. And I can only say the same to get Rhiannon on this time as well. So yeah, super excited to dive into all the good stuff. But like Matt said, we were doing a charity drive during Pride Month for the Trevor Project. We decided to carry that on into July. This time we have incentives. So the money that you donate isn't only just going to an amazing charity, it's also giving you the chance to unlock special things like the One Chip Challenge. So if you've seen Tuesday's stream, you will have seen Matt in a lot of pain.
Not a lot of pain.
No.
But enough.
Enough pain.
Enough to be entertaining for people.
Some of the other incentives include things like special one-shots and a battle royale between some of the characters in Matt's main campaigns. So that's pretty cool. And what I'll do to help you with that is just drop this in chat. If you click that link, it'll tell you everything you need to know. And also, if you join the Discord server, there's lots of cool things in there as well as more information about the charity drive. But we're here for the UA, so we're going to kind of jump right in. I'm going to talk a little bit more, and then hopefully it's not long before I pass it over to these guys for some expert insight. But yeah, I guess we're going to talk about the Bard first. But one thing I just wanted to iron out was they've now kind of come out with these class groups. So each class belongs to a designated group. So you have the expert group, which contains the Bard, the Ranger, and the Rogue. The Mages group, which contains the Sorcerer, the Warlock, and the Wizard. The Priest group, which contains the Cleric, Druid, and Paladin. And then the Warrior group, which contains the Barbarian, Fighter, and Monk. They've stated that the Artificer is coming, but it won't come out in the new and updated PHB, but it will be here. So, yes, like I said, we're going to start off with Bard. If you wanted to follow along, this is in UA6. If you go to D&D Beyond and click on the Unearthed Arcana page, you'll find it there and you can read along, but it should be up on screen as well.
It is.
The Bard belongs to the Expert class group. Its primary ability is Charisma. And if you compare its hit dice, proficiencies, and armor to the 2014 version, these are all the same except for short swords. They no longer have access to them, but everything else is pretty much the same. So if you wanted to start a new character as a Bard, you can pick up the starting equipment, which includes 2 daggers, an entertainer's pack, leather armor, musical instrument of your choice, and 26 gold pieces, or you can forego all of that and take 100 gold pieces and spend it on what you want. So now we're going to just head into a little change log of some of the changes that have occurred for the bard, and then we'll dive into the specifics and talk about them. So the first one is Bardic Inspiration. This is returned to its 2014 form with the following changes. So the Bardic Inspiration dice is now used in response to failing a d20 test. You no longer have to guess whether you failed or not. A creature now has up to an hour, not just 10 minutes, to use the dice. But the healing option that was in the previous UA has basically been removed. The next change is the spell casting. There's two noteworthy changes here. Now each bard gets to choose whether they want to use the arcane, divine, or primal spell lists. And the second one is spell preparation is no longer tied to the level of your spell slots, and we'll get into that a bit more. Jack of all trades is returned to second level. The bard subclasses, these now match up with the 2014 progression so that there's backwards compatibility. Font of Inspiration is returned to 5th level, and now it allows you to expend spell slots to use Bardic Inspiration if you're out of uses. Counter Charm is back and is improved, thankfully. It was probably the worst feature in the game. It's now 7th level, and you can use it as reaction rather than an action. Magical Secrets is returned to 10th level and now affects your spell choice for all your later bard levels. We'll get into what that means. And finally, Words of Creation is a new 20th level feature, replacing the Epic Boon features that they tried to implement in early UAs, but they just weren't quite working. So we'll start with the first of those, which I mentioned, which is Bardic Inspiration. And just to recap again, this now works exclusively when the player feels a D20 test, so you don't have to wait, you don't have to kind of guess or assume, and it lasts an hour instead of 10 minutes. I know you were itching to go on the bard, Rhiannon, so we'll give this one over to you. What are we thinking about these new Bardic Inspiration changes?
Like it, but I also, there's part of me that kind of dislikes the now that is exclusive to a failure of our role. There was something very satisfying of being like, right, okay, we don't want to just succeed on this role. We want to make sure this is like a super success. So we want to try and throw as much on this as possible. Like, I'm sure everyone's had those times where the bard's given bardic, the cleric's given guidance, you know, everyone's trying to pump up a really good role for something. For someone to achieve something, they're trying to aim for that 30 mark. If this is now only for exclusively failures, it means there's no more of that kind of like extra boon to try and get further, to try and hit a higher mark, which I think does actually, for me, also roleplay wise, it goes against that kind of bardic inspiration. Like, the inspiration isn't there to catch you from failing, it's to inspire you to do good in any role. So if you want to try and push for a higher roll, like a 25 instead of a 20 or something, and you want to use that bardic to go further, you can't do that unless you fail. So for me, that kind of, I like what they're trying to do with it, but I kind of prefer it when you can apply it to any role of your choosing.
Yeah, I like that part. I didn't think about that. And I know Jack is someone that implements like leveled successes. So you can still succeed, but like you said, if you get a higher number, you might get more information from a skill check. So that's a good point.
I do the same thing, actually.
You do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So do we agree, Rhiannon, that the change is obviously, you know, from going from 10 minutes to an hour is obviously a clear buff?
100%. Yeah, there's so many times when you want to do this before you go into a fight or something. You're not quite sure when you want to get it in there, and if you've only got 10 minutes and you're like, we spent 10 minutes just walking and traveling, it's gone. Having an hour means you've got plenty of time to really actually get somewhere, to make sure you're not prejudging too far as well. I think it's more beneficial.
Nice. Anyone else have anything to add on Bardic Inspiration?
I do.
Go for it.
I think that the within the context of the rules, I think that's why they're saying it, you know, when a creature fails. I mean, previously you'd have to risk the die. You know, it was like, you have to spend it before you know whether you fail or succeed, etc., etc. But like Rhiannon said, you could potentially spend it to increase the die roll. It's a simple enough thing to homebrew and just say you can use it, because I do the same thing. I do like tiered successes. So depending on, whatever I set the difficulty at, if you beat it by a lot, I'll throw in more information. So it's, it's the same thing. I think because of that, I am rather baseline when it comes to liking it or disliking it. It's easy enough to just say, nah, go ahead and use it.
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
hour change though.
Yeah, well, that's huge.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me of I don't know if you've seen it because I'm old, but the Big Trouble in Little China, after they drink the
Yes.
drink the potion and they're on the elevator. It's like, I feel really good.
You just threw me back like
You
20 years.
Okay, you sent me like back a year.
So yeah,
So for the
sort
first
of
time like a
reminds us
year
like, I
ago.
really feel good. That's Bardic inspiration to me.
Mm.
That's all I have to add.
Okay. We'll move it on to the spell casting. So just to recap what that was, you now get to choose what list you draw your spell casting from. Basically, if you've never seen any of the UA documents so far, they've basically split spell casting into arcane, divine, and primal. Pretty self-explanatory there. But that's a kind of opposed to the Bard's previous spell list, which was very like wizard, I guess, orientated or arcane orientated in this case. Spell prep is no longer tied to spell slots, and in your Bard table, it'll tell you how many spells that you can prepare at whatever level you're at. And just to add on to that, Magic Secrets, which is a 10th level feature, gives you access to one of the two lists that you haven't already picked. So if you start with Arcane, by the time you get to 10th level, you can choose Divine or Primal and start drawing on spells from that list as well. We'll give this one over to Jack. What do we think of these spell casting changes, Jack?
I think it's quite an interesting change, because if you look at the Bard spell list in 5th edition, it's kind of like from all over the place. There's some spells that you'd consider arcane, some that you consider divine, some that you consider primal. And then when they were doing with 1 D&D and they were trying to really standardize these spell lists, the Bard spell list was always a bit sort of lacking. Like, it was arcane spells from 4 schools, which meant you had to learn what the schools were. And then they got the Songs of Restoration because they didn't get any healing spells otherwise. And I think now, just getting to pick a list is better. It is true that if you pick a purely arcane bard, then you're not going to get many healing spells, because they're mostly divine or primal. But at least you've got some agency over which ones you pick. I think it also opens some interesting build options. So that the College of Valor is in this playtest, and I think we're going to cover that in a later stream. But it would be interesting to play a College of Valor bard that takes the divine spell list and is able to get some of the smites that weren't reserved for the Paladin. Like, I believe Wrathful Smite is still generic divine. So I think something like that will be quite interesting. The concern is that the Divine Bard may overshadow the Cleric, and the Primal Bard may overshadow the Druid. But I really can't see that happening with the Cleric, because, the Cleric, you get more cantrips, you get the improvements to cantrips, you get better armor, you've got Channel Divinity, which is quite a good combat feature. I think there'll be a big... I think there will be very distinct builds. The Cleric would be more combat focused and the Divine Bard more skill focused. The Primal Bard and the Druid aren't quite as distinct, because Wild Shape's not that great a combat feature and has always been more of a utility one, which, the Bard gets a lot of utility features like expertise. So we might have to see how that goes, but certainly I think it's a good change. And I don't think it's one that's going to particularly overshadow these, the existing classes. My concern would be when Magical Secrets comes on and you get to pick from all spell lists. I think Wizards of the Coast might have to have a look at some of the problem spells. Some of the unusually powerful ones, because the Bard is getting access to the lot of them. in conjunction. So, oh, and last thing, I remember the last time we were reviewing the Bard, I said they needed a good, like, solid D8 cantrip, and I'm glad they get access to all of them.
Yes.
Well, any of them, I should say.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's nice.
Mm.
Good change. Good stuff.
Yeah, no, that's some good points. Open table at this point. Anyone want to add anything else onto that?
Oh, go for it.
I was gonna say
Go ahead.
one small side thing I noticed is that they always, whatever list you choose, you always get vicious mockery, and I'm just glad that's a thing. I'm just happy. Vicious mockery is like, for any bard I play, is like, yeah, that's the one. That's
it is
the funny.
signature after all.
That's
so.
the funny. That's all for me.
Think I have this might just be my reserves about this. I love bards as the utility class that I think they fully serve. Like you of course can like go into healing, you can go into damage, but one of the greatest thing about bards is that they're mainly a utility class. I find that putting them into distinct lists and not giving them, like, say you say, right, okay, choose your main spell list and then choose a secondary and like split them between the two. Like you get to choose this amount from this list and this amount from this list. And it gives them a wider range and variety because bards are meant to be range of variety. They're meant to be basically taking from multiple sources, learning from different things, and having that diverse spell list, not as powerful as like a sorcerer or a wizard or something, but still their strength comes in that diversity and the fact that they can draw from multiple sources. I think limiting them to one type of spell, like limiting them to arcane or primal or divine for 10 levels, I think is wildly limiting for what the bard is meant to be, even in like a roleplay aspect. So I'm not too keen on that myself.
I could definitely see that. It definitely, like, bards are definitely like the creative types, but it feels like you're putting the creative type in a box. I could see that, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like the jack of all trades, right? You kind of just kind of going against that.
Until you hit 10th level and then you go crazy.
Yeah.
I think,
if you survive till 10th level, that's
most written adventures are ending around that point, or like at least a few levels past
that's
that
true.
too.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. The one thing I wanted to point out, and I'm sure you'll be able to confirm this, Matt, because you were there when those scripts were written 3,000 years ago.
The scrolls.
The Dead Sea Scrolls.
The original Bard, when it came out, it had a very primal aspect to it, right? They were kind of like these like Bard druids, if you will. So it's allowing the Bard to kind of tap more into that compared to the 2014 version as well. Because that's like the least, like the 2014 Bard was like the least associated, I feel like, with, you know, Ranger and Druid spells and stuff like that, those primal ones. So
I don't necessarily feel like even the OG bards, they still had access to arcane magic. It was kind of like still a mix when they came out. It just wasn't as useful. Bards were not, even as like utility classes, they just really lacked when they were originally introduced. But I wouldn't call them primal, even though a lot of their magic kind of drew off of some of that. It was, they were still, you know, there's a reason why the horny bard trope exists, because that's pretty much anyone who played a bard, you know, way back, wasn't doing it because they wanted to be able to mathematically benefit a party. So, you know, it's literally just so they could flirt. And speaking of that, I wanted to add my piece into it, you know, regarding these spells. Obviously, you all know that I really like to focus on flavor, role play, and general feel of the class. And having them being able to choose from the 3 different spell lists, I have to question what that translates to in a role-playing aspect. for instance, like a bard that, chooses from the divine spell list, are they a proselytizer? Are they someone who uses their acting and persuasion ability? Do they turn their charisma on the world in a way to support whatever divine source their magic comes from? Or, like I see like a faith-based bard come out of that, whereas you have from the primal list, you have more like a barbarian skald, someone who, comes out and sings the praises and tells the sagas of whatever tribe that they come from. So in that regard, I like the fact that you can kind of choose those three, because it really kind of flavors where the bard comes from. I mean, the standard arcane bard still really kind of directs you to, the jongleur, or, that type of jester bard, the one that travels with a troop across a country. So from that perspective, I do like what they did here.
I'm still split on this. It's from a class identity point of view, it's great. But it needs some tweaks. There is also the fact that we've kind of seen across the board with how they're designing the classes for 5.5e or 1D&D. It's all about making it a bit more approachable to new players. And this is a lot more approachable than how it used to be for the bards. There needs to be a middle ground, though.
Maybe if they like plugged something in at like a level before 10, in which you could like maybe look at 2 spell lists.
I think like I think that'd be more achievable. Like having something that allows you to diversify your spell list at level 10 just seems a bit like pointless, especially if a lot of people are starting at like 2 or 3, which is where a lot of like campaigns or like adventures and such will start from. And like you're right, a lot of them do end up capping themselves off at level 10, or at least maybe level 11 or 12. So it feels like you're pushing and pushing to get to that point, and then you've got nothing else to do with it because you don't get to really play with it or toy with that. I do like what Matt was saying about being able to then like really focus on a role play aspect of it. But then I would then argue you could just, if you had access to more spells or access to maybe 2 lists, or if you wanted to make it so your primary and secondary list are the same type of magic. So if you wanted to make it full divine, you could just do a full divine, or you could split them, maybe a bit how you'd split like a manual roll sort of system in that sense, like a predetermined like a roll on your stats. You put the numbers in specific spots and you get that amount. If you had that for your spells as well, you could pump them all into divine, you could pump them all into primal, or you could just split them out if you wanted to really diversify what your character is doing for that roleplay aspect. I think just giving them these 3 boxes, however, then limits that massively, because then you do get stuck to, okay, well, I only know divine spells. Why do I only know divine spells? Okay, I only know primal. Why do I only know primal? And you then only got those to choose from in that sense. So
listen, just take out counter charm. Just take it out. Put it at change font of inspiration where counter charm is, and then just you get different spells. There you go. I fixed bard for you. Wizards, hire me.
Now, move counter charm up to 11th level since I don't have anything there anyway. And then
I don't
just
think
stick
I've,
at 7th.
in a high level campaign, I don't think I've ever had the opportunity to use counter charm full stop.
Well, we're gonna get to that. Font of inspiration is up next. I'm gonna give you this one, Bex.
All
unless
right.
you want to do counter charm. In fact, no,
Nah.
I'll give you counter charm.
Okay.
We'll move on. We'll give Matt this one. So basically, Font of Inspiration, it lets you convert spell slots into bardic inspiration as a free action. So yeah, this is kind of like what the sorcerer does with meta magic.
Mhm.
It seems pretty good. But what are your thoughts, Matthew?
Well, I don't think, honestly. I mean, it's nice. It's cool to be able to actually convert spell slots into bardic inspiration. Is the trade-off really worth it? You know, it's kind of hard to. I see. What is it? Like if you take divine or divine spells might be used, might be a better use for it. Like, would you swap out a spell slot for that when you could kind of accomplish a similar thing with like a divine spell, even like a cantrip? You know, I don't know. I don't think it's really a big enough change to say, you know, that's super cool and stuff. Yeah, it's nice to have, but I'm just trying to think of like the efficacy of its use. Like, how likely is a bard to throw that out there, you know, and waste a spell slot to give somebody bardic inspiration? I don't know that bardic inspiration itself is like that super cool that you would do that, you know. Maybe it's just me, but I guess I'm kind of nonplussed by it. It's like, yeah, it's cool to have if that's what you want to do, but I think they could probably do better for it, you know, like, you know, maybe scale it so that you get, you know, a higher die depending on like the level of spell that you use might be something that would be worth it, you know.
I have a suggestion for a change there.
Yeah, go
You
for
said
it.
that very menacingly. I don't know about like,
Strokes cut.
I can be menacing sometimes. So how about using Font of Inspiration? You spend a spell slot as a reaction to immediately give someone a inspiration die that they can then use. So if you're in combat and someone's failed a check, spend the spell slot as a reaction to give them bardic inspiration to add to that check.
Immediately
That's a
on
good
that
idea.
roll. That's really good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
a good idea.
good.
Well
that
done,
Take
instantly
out-
makes
Jordan.
it worth
Put
it.
that in and then take out counter charm.
I
mean,
think
another way of doing.
Bex is all in on counter charm. She's like,
yeah. It's coming your way, Bex.
I
It's coming.
have negative experiences with it.
What were you going to say, Jack?
Oh, I was going to say, another way of improving the efficacy of this element of Font of Inspiration is, I just don't think a first level spell slot is worth only like a single bardic inspiration die. But if you do it like sorcery point rules, you could say that a first level spell slot gets you 2, a second gets you 3, a third gets you 5. And I guess if you have a charisma score greater than 20, a 4th would get you 6 and a 5th would get you 7.
It's
Yeah.
kind
Without
of
looking
along
at
the same
table, I
idea,
think
like
those are the rules,
the lines of what I
Yeah.
was saying.
I think
Yeah.
I just don't think the conversion is favourable. Not a bad feature, but it's not going to see common use.
yeah.
no.
Mhm.
I think John was really on the ball with that one because it's only the only aspect of it is if you've got no use of budding inspiration left, you can do this once per turn where you can spruce it up. If you have access to that in doing it as a reaction, that suddenly becomes like way more worth it. Even if you used a spell slot to give yourself back like 6, like you've then got to spend a bonus action every turn and use it every turn and such. Like it doesn't have the same like payoff as using a spell, which could be like concentration or something, yada yada, like a haste spell or something. So that reaction, honestly I think like that's ingenious.
Yeah,
I think
agreed.
fully.
Jordan, you
I'd
should
also
submit
note-
that.
You should submit that.
I'd also note that 5th edition already had a way to convert a 3rd level spell slot into all your bardic inspiration die. It was called Catnap.
Oh.
Somebody else
This is
had to cast it
true.
because you'd be asleep through the concentration spell. But that is nevertheless how that spell worked. They were already happy to say that a 3rd level spell slot was worth, all a bard's bardic inspiration dice, and then 2 other people their short rest stuff.
You know?
Since we
Yeah.
Since we
I don't
brought
think it's
up
unreasonable to ask for 5 bardic inspiration dice from one.
since we brought up submissions, I think it's important to note the survey is still open for UA6, so make
Yeah, I
sure you
saw
get
that
your
too.
responses in.
Yeah.
Put it in. Put it in.
So,
Put it in, Jordan. Put
I'm
it in.
trying.
Jordan, I think that's a really good idea.
We're gonna see it, and it's gonna be like, yes, this is it. This is the change we wanted, and then everyone's gonna play Bard because it's gonna be so cool.
Yeah. The only thing I wanted to add was it does favor maybe a melee bard more, who's maybe going to be making more attacks rather than casting spells, so therefore they don't really care as much that they're converting spells into bardic inspirations. So I guess that's the only thing I would add to that. But yeah, we'll move on. Here you go, Bex. Here's your time to shine. Next up is Counter Charm, which, as I said in the changelog recap, probably worst feature in 5e. Sure, Jack's got a worthy adversary for that one, but it's now a reaction, and if they fail the roll against that charm or fear effect, they can re-roll with advantage. So that's pretty nice. But what do we think, Bex? Is it nice enough?
It's better now. Okay, quick story time about my complaints about Counter Charm. Curse of Strahd campaign. Honestly, I could just stop right there. Curse of Strahd campaign. We had a bard. I think it was like, it just came down to the action economy because it was an action, right?
Yes.
And we were just, it was either because our bard was our before he classed into cleric, our bard was like doing a lot of our healing. And it was either bring up this downed person or stop this person from getting charmed. You get an action. What are you gonna do with it? And it just felt so crummy. It's like you get to re-roll. You could still fail, I think, is like the premise. Like you could still definitely fail, but you get a re-roll, and there's your action of it. So it just felt like kind of like a kick in the teeth if you would still fail that, because it happened. And we'd be like, oh, well, not only is my action gone, but I did nothing my turn.
Yeah. I think one of the major problems is it's like, well, the charm or fear effect's already happened before you can do anything about it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it was just, that was it. Like, you get advantage. Like, you could use your action to do like the little song, and you'd get advantage on your saving throw for being frightened or charmed. But even then, if that's to spend your turn and advantage, I think I'm not a numbers guy, but I think someone did the numbers in our group, and it's like, it's on average like a plus 2 to 4 better for your roll if you roll like advantage a bunch of times. You could still fail, especially once you get to things like 7th level, 10th level, things above that. Like, you could still fail if it's a powerful enough enemy. So it feels like just a waste of your turn when you could do it casting a much cooler spell. Now, I think it's kind of better. I don't have as much hate for it as I do the old one. I definitely think it's better now, especially because it's a reaction. And that reroll gets advantage, so you practically roll 3 times to not fail this frightened or charmed effect.
Yeah.
But, it still definitely feels like we're trying to keep this. And it's like, nothing else for me? Not a crumb of something different? That's me on that one.
Anything else to add?
No.
I mean,
Go on, Rhiannon.
I kind of. Oh, sorry.
No, we'll go Rhiannon first. No, go to you, Jack.
Cool. I kind of wish that it would affect maybe a bit more than just charmed or frightened spells. I think if it were, it says it's something to mess with the mind, right? So like, how many times do you get like a for example, if someone did like Tasha's mind whip on you or something like that, having this being able to disrupt that, because that's not a charmed or frightened spell, that just stops you from doing anything but choosing one of your 4 things to do. So if this could then come in and say it can not only affect like you can reroll for saves, but maybe like it can cancel out, like if you use that as a reaction, you could then cancel out the effects of like a psychic glance, of a mind whip, you know, those mind abilities as well. Because I feel like there are so many charm spells that don't really get used because so many things have like immunity to charm. Do you take an elf, you're I'm good, you know, that sort of thing. You've got like resistances to that, etc.
So you're basically saying anything that does psychic damage?
Yeah.
If it has an effect after it. So not everything that does psychic, so you'd still take the psychic damage, but if it has an effect after it that you have to take a save for, I
So
feel like
anytime I see what you're saying.
Maybe
Yeah.
like any like if it's like for wisdom or like certain like kinds of saves, maybe then, because it might be, because I'm thinking about like the spell confusion. Confusion's a fun mind affecting one. It's not a charm. It's not a frighten, but there's a lot of nasty stuff that it can do. And so, you know, sure, you can stop someone from being charmed or from being like frightened, but then somebody else has just other mind affecting magic that does other janky nonsense, and you can't really do anything to help them other than trying to dispel it or hope they pass their save.
Exactly. Like I think if as it's at 7th level, you're getting higher in the levels and such. So it was again thinking about those adventures where you're starting at like 2 or 3, heading up to 10th level, 7th level, you're wanting something big. People aren't going to be doing just like a regular like charm person on you. If you're going against a big bad enemy, they're going to be casting things like confusion. They're going to be casting more strategic things. That means that like while that's still like a fun reaction to use, it's really not on the same level as like going against like a save. So like I think Bex had a good idea of like basically making it like a wisdom save, a charisma save, an intelligence save, making it like one of those 3 where it's not strength or dexterity. So giving them like counter charm against spells that force people to make a wisdom, intelligence, or charisma save maybe would be more effective, and would then also give bards more reaction economy on what they should be using their reactions for.
Yeah. What were you gonna add, Jack?
Oh, my thought in full was it's all right, but in the sake of having a more developed thought, I agree that it is sort of only all right, but I think it is on par with what a lot of the other casters get at 7th level. So remember, this is also something that they get along with 4th level spell casting. But if you think about what the other playtest casters are getting, the cleric and druid are getting their either small improvements to cantrips or weapon damage. Now the wizard is getting modify spell, which was actually good. But the sorcerer was getting their, they were just getting their one spell that was kind of like a Build-A-Bear fireball. I don't think it's like substantially, worse than any of these. It's a fairly reliable way of getting like one person out of a frightened or charmed effect. Because not only do they get to re-roll making a second attempt, it's with advantage, so it's a third attempt as well. I do agree that it is a bit, limited, just being the charmed and frightened condition, and maybe it could be boosted to, just wisdom saving throws in general. But I don't think it's particularly out of place given the rest of the design decisions.
Yeah, it definitely
So in
isn't.
conclusion, it's all right.
It's okay. I just want a crumb more, a shred more.
We went from
Right.
trash to okay.
Listen, it was previously trash.
Oh,
Yeah.
And that's okay. I'm glad that they've put in work into it. That shows progress and hearing what people say about the things that they like and don't like. That means a community cares about the health of a game. So,
Yeah.
I can't
It's
complain
kinda-
too much.
Yeah, it's kind of like when we done the monk last time and the deflect missiles, because it was like a cool feature, but it was just so niche and just hardly like came up. So they've made it more, you're accessing it and utilizing it more. And obviously that's probably gonna happen here. But yeah, we'll move on from that, and we'll go. The final one that I'm going to focus on is Words of Creation. So this is the new 20th level feature that replaced the Epic Boon. Basically, what this means is you always have Power Word Heal and Power Word Kill prepared, and you can target a second creature with either of those two spells as long as they are within 10 feet of the first target. Now, Jordan, I haven't went to you first so far, so you're the batter up on this one.
I mean, it's that full realization of the like class identity, class fantasy of my words shape the world around me sort of thing. And it really feels good. And giving them a buff to those specific spells really feels good. I have no notes on this part. It's just really solid in terms of like mechanically role play and just like fun. Being able to look at two people with less than 100 hit points that are within 10 feet of each other and saying a single word and them dying of cringe is fantastic.
Power
You just say
mockery.
cringe.
Power word mockery. I like that.
Power word mockery. Yeah. It just, or vice versa. Looking at two of your friends that have gone down and being able to just, here's a shit ton of healing for you.
You just whisper angrily.
No, you just put on your best Zuko from The Last Airbender voice and just go, that's rough, buddy. And then they just get back up.
No, I think you're fully right there. I think the roleplay aspects of that really lend themselves to the bard. They showcase the bard and their like real power is the power of words, performance, and such, and that sort of thing.
Friendship.
Yeah,
Friendship is magic. It really ties in with that. I think it's a really, really, really such a cool thing to get at 20th level.
Yeah.
Anything to add from anyone else on Words of Creation?
I think it's
No.
pretty fun.
I think that, I mean, the fact that they can also target another creature, 2 power word kills.
That's gonna be
I mean,
nuts.
20th level.
I
we're
mean,
talking
20th
about,
level,
so,
but
you know,
also nuts.
That would cost a lot of sorcery points to twin that.
I was about to say, like, sorcerers could do that with like twin spell, but like showcasing this as like a true strength of a bard with like the words, tasty. That's some tasty flavor.
Yeah.
I've been having a look at the the new descriptions. Though they're not too different from the old ones. And I always kind of felt that Power Word Heal was just sort of not as good as Mass Heal, which was also a 9th level spell. So I think they might have to have a look at how they're going to balance the 9th level spells. Because I think I'd probably prefer casting Mass Heal to Power Word Heal, even if I had, Power Word Heal automatically prepared. A Power Word, I mean, Power Word Kill is one of those things that sometimes, unfortunately, gets compared to Meteor Swarm, which levels anything in its path. And sometimes you don't want to destroy everything in your path. But I still don't think Power Word Kill's as good as Psychic Scream, which is like an AoE spell, does a good amount of damage, can stun some people.
Yeah.
So I think having 2 9th level spells auto prepared and then getting to twin them is nice. But I think the 2 spells in question is somewhat overshadowed by other 9th level spells that exist. Maybe we got to cast. Maybe we got to cast them for free once per day. But no, that would
be okay.
I just feel they're gonna have to look at spell balancing before I can get too excited. Just because of the 9th level spells out there.
Maybe we need one more power word 9th level spell.
Powered stun, maybe. So another power word to use.
They make a
Um,
completely
Yeah.
new power word just for bards.
or what if you got to choose your third? What if that was something that you then got to tailor to? Because there's a couple other power word spells. So you get power word heal, power word kill, and then you get to choose a third that then you can tailor to the build of your character.
Ooh, I like that.
Mm.
That feels solid. Like you've mastered life and death, and one thing in between is your niche area.
Yeah. Like, what's your story? You've mastered life and death, but what have you accomplished?
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that.
Mm. I think the flavoring of that would work really well.
And if I ever have a 20th level bard in 5.5e, I'm just putting that straight in there.
Absolutely.
That's the real
All right.
trick.
We're not going to do subclasses today for any of the classes that we're talking about just to save time. But does anyone else want to add anything else on the bard
I do.
as a whole before we wrap up? Go for it.
I do. Just something that I do as a homebrew rule. I wouldn't mind actually seeing it, end up as a permanent thing. Is the I'm all about utility. To me, there's no such thing as a dump stat or a dump skill. In my campaigns, and anyone that has played in my campaigns, I'm sure Sammy, you can attest to this. Shit comes up that you don't expect that it'll come up, like using pottery to figure out a trap, so that kind of stuff, like that's important to me. But if for those of you out there who aren't familiar with it, the help action requires that both parties be proficient in whatever skill is being used. I like to think, just to add some utility usefulness to the bard, that once a bard gets access to Jack of all trades, they can always use the help ability with somebody. They can always help because they know just enough to be helpful. So just something that I homebrew and do anyway. I wouldn't mind actually seeing that become an actual thing.
I like
I like
that.
that.
That's really cool.
Because trust me, it can matter.
Yeah.
Especially in my games.
I want to play.
I think that's it for me.
Anyone else? Anything else? Okay. Well, with that out of the way, we will move ourselves on to the Ranger,
Ooh.
which is my soul class.
Oh yeah.
Is it?
That's your bay, a Banger.
Yeah. I grew up on that Legolas hype.
What page is Ranger on?
I remember Ion.
Yes, first class I ever played in D&D was Ranger. He was also playing the worst class the worst subclass in the game at the time, which was Beastmaster.
Oh.
Terrible subclass. Anyway, so I've got some things to say on this because the first time we done the Ranger, I think was episode 2 or 3. We all really loved it, and I was really happy with it. And it just went back a little bit, but we'll get to that. So the Ranger is part of the Expert class group. Its primary abilities are Dexterity and Wisdom. And in terms of hit dice, proficiencies, and armor, these are all the same as the 2014 counterpart. The starting equipment that you get if you pick Ranger, you can either go with 20 arrows, a Druidic focus, an Explorer's pack, a longbow or a shortbow, a quiver, a scimitar, a short sword, studded leather armor, and 7 gold pieces. Or you can forego all of that and take 150 to spend on what you want. We're going to do a quick change log recap, and then we'll get into the specifics. So Deft Explorer. This replaces the expertise feature at first level. Deft Explorer includes 1 expertise choice along with some terrain-orientated material. There's spellcasting changes like there was with the Bard. There's 3 noteworthy changes this time. Spell preparation is no longer tied to the level of your spell slots. That's the same with the Bard. That's probably a consistent change going forward. The Ranger can change 1 prepared spell upon finishing a long rest, and cantrips are no longer included. This is to balance the weapon mastery access that Rangers got. And then again, weapon mastery is a new first level feature. Favored enemy has moved to 2nd level, and it no longer removes concentration from Hunter's Mark. Can you tell I like that? Which was overpowered in playtests, apparently. The feature instead now allows you to cast the spell a number of times without expending a spell slot. Ranger subclasses have the levels now match the level progression in the 2014 PHB, which is again a change that you'll see throughout all these different classes. Conjure Barrage is a new 9th level feature. Nature's Veil no longer uses spell slots, and it has been moved to 14th level. Tireless now gives temporary hit points as an action, like it did in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Conjure Volley is a new 17th level feature. Feral Senses has returned to 18th level. And Foe Slayer is now an improved version of the 2014 feature and has returned to 20th level, again, replacing that epic boon that was previously there in the old UA. So we'll start with Depth Explorer. Basically what this is you get 1 less expertise than previously it was 2. The trade-off is that you now get to choose 2 terrain types, so like forest, mountain, underdark, etc. You have advantage on nature and survival checks specific to those terrains. You can switch out one of those terrains on a long rest, and at level 9 you get access to an extra expertise. Plus, you can add 2 more terrains to your arsenal as well. Let's go with Bex on Depth Explorer. What are we thinking here, Bex, on these changes?
So I've only ever played a ranger once or twice. Which I like them. They're fun. I definitely I really liked having expertise. I thought that, like, especially with trying to like make sure you kind of having all your bases covered in a party, having expertise really helps a lot if there's just one base not getting covered at all. I do like the terrain things. That was one thing I really liked a lot in like Pathfinder type things, where gives you a reason to have like exploration in campaigns and like, you know, viewing things about it, because you can get a lot from a nature check and you can get a lot from like survival checks for tracking and all that stuff. I think that's fine. I think it's overall fine. Kind of sad about losing the expertise, but the fact that you can like change one of your chosen terrains is super cool, especially in a campaign where you're changing or like where you're traveling a lot and the landscape's changing a lot. So you're not like, an example, I played a ranger and I was told we were going to be in the desert, and I'm like, cool, I'll choose desert. And we were not in the desert nearly as long as I thought we were going to be. We were in the desert, don't get me wrong, but we are not in the desert nearly as long as I thought we were going to be. And I'm like, well, okay. Guess I'm in the desert. I'll do it now.
It was just a long beach.
Yeah, and it just becomes redundant at that point, right? So that's good. That's good that you can keep changing them. Yeah. Anyone else have anything to add on this? Obviously, it's a level 1 feature, so I think it's pretty cool at level 1.
I honestly think, I think it's quite superb for level 1.
Yeah.
My only, again, I come from the position of flavor, RP, backstory. The ability to switch your chosen terrain. Not sure. I mean, I can sort of wrap my head around it. I just think, I don't know, I think it's weird. Why? Like, if you grew up, you know, your starting character, you get this at first level, you grew up in the forest. Why would you all of a sudden, because you walked into a desert, know how to survive in a desert? The only way that I can explain it is that you are sort of attuning to nature like an item. I would think that's how you could explain it, is like you get into it and, you know, you get into that terrain and the ranger basically like kind of reaches out and, you know, in sort of a druidic fashion, basically attunes to that environment and then just instinctively understands it. I think maybe that's kind of what they're doing there, but being able to just change it out because you're a ranger is weird to me. I don't know if it's the flavor, you know, having, you know, I don't know, like, getting access to more of them as you level might be a better idea after you've explored it. Kind of like a druidic wild shape. You can only, wild shape into animals that you've encountered before.
Mhm.
You can't actually just transform into like, a T-Rex because you can. It's like you gotta hunt for one, you gotta find one, and it's I guess that's my only thing. But again, for me it's like Jordan with class identity. So
I agree. You do get 2 more terrains at 9th level, but you're right. It does seem a bit odd that you can switch up the terrains you have so easily. Like if it was when you gain a ranger level, then like a level's enough time to do some exploration. But it's at the end of a long rest, which means, as far as I'm concerned, the canonical explanation is it came to me in a dream.
yeah,
I oh, go ahead.
no, I was
I
just
felt-
agreeing. Like, yeah, I don't know, it makes no sense.
Yeah, I definitely think, like, mechanically speaking, I enjoy it. I definitely do think it does lose some of its flavor, but I guess since they call it like ranger, like one of the expert classes, right? That's what it's class.
Yes.
Yeah, or even if, like, as you were saying, like with the attunement to like nature and all that stuff, that maybe just the argument is, even if they're a level 1 person, they're just a level 1 person, a level 1 ranger. They're just an expert in the world around them. They can, see the signs or hear the sounds that other people might just not pick up on, and that just might make it easier. I definitely could see, like, at least like my campaigns, I still probably, even if it's like good like that, I still probably would homebrew it of like, you've never been to the Underdark? There's no reason. I could argue you've been anywhere on this continent. You've never been to the Underdark. No, I can't let you call that your favorite terrain, but like, I probably wouldn't
They were
be
just
like,
really,
yeah.
they were
They're
just
just-
really into the Drist books. That's
Yeah, no, sorry.
how I did it.
Well, you not only get you not only get that understanding of the new terrain, you forget the one that you came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like,
What if you, because like leaning into that, what if you had like one which was just set and then you had a flexible terrain, and that wasn't and it's not like it's called flexible terrain. It could be like fast learning or something like that, something which shows that level 1, because of course commoners are below level 1. As soon as you hit level 1, you are no longer a regular person because you have way more hit points, you have way more extra stuff. So sorry. If you had
no dying on
good.
stream. That's against TOS.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
no,
so
you're gonna
sorry.
shut down. No.
I'll survive till the end. But if you had one which was like a fast learning, a flexible one that you could learn, if you had it in the same way that, for example, using an artificer can use tools like stonemasons to build a shelter during short rest, so they'd have to spend a short rest doing that. So they wouldn't actually be able to rest doing it. They'd have to spend that time doing it. If you had that for a ranger, then changing their flexible terrain, you've then got their one set one that they can then build upon. They always have that there. And then their one where they spend a short rest going, okay, I need to learn this new place that I'm in. And then they then have advantages and stuff going forward from that.
Yeah, I mean, like you're learning a tool. Well, you spend downtime to
Adaptable
gain
explorer.
it. Yeah, turn it into. But if you're going to do like I was explaining, why not call it something like primal attunement, or natural attunement or something like that, so that at least like a lot of times when somebody can all of a sudden gain, some kind of proficiency in a tool set, they explain it in a way, like, what is it? The Shadow Rogue there, where they get like the Whispers of the Dead or whatever it is. And like,
Phantom Rogue.
yeah, the Phantom. So like for the duration, you're channeling the memories and knowledge of a ghost, somebody else. They explain it. This makes no sense.
Forest spirits.
Well, like I said, if it's attunement, it's almost, you're gaining that, the advantage and stuff like that, almost like, flavor wise, when you explain it, it's like that terrain, that biome is teaching you as you go. It kind of, you instinctively, it gives up those secrets to you. So it's almost like, that environment is giving you the answers. You have the cheat sheet for it.
Yeah. Vibe with that. I think I'd flavor it somewhat differently because I'm a big sucker for like not every class being a magic class. It's actually one of my biggest pet peeves with 5e, that there seems to be no longer fully non-magical classes. I would love for it to be something called like Scout Ahead or something like that, where you spend your downtime in that sense, like mechanically attuning to it, but flavorally, you're just going out and you're learning because you're an expert in your field, and you're going out and you're learning the environment, learning what you're doing, scouting around the area as well and such. Like, I think that kind of ties in, and then that means at a level 1 you're not instantly going into the magic aspects. That way, if someone wants to go down the subclass where they're just like monster hunter, for example, which is not fully magical really, it's mostly just a case of expertise and knowledge, you've then got that flavor that you can then go with there.
Well,
But overall, honestly, mechanically, fully agree with you.
I think they're doing the magical route just because the ranger itself is a magical class. They have access to spells. Their abilities are grounded in some kind of magical something,
I don't know. I've had people play a ranger that was essentially Hawkeye from the Avengers, and it was just things that looked like magical effects. It was just arrows they sort of created on the fly that looked and felt like magical effects mechanically, but
isn't that an artificer? An artillery?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great fun to do that though. Like, for example, like Hunter's Mark literally just being like, no, I'm now watching their every breath. I'm watching for every twitch of their movement and stuff. This isn't me magically hunting them. This is me focusing in on them and stuff. So there's different ways you can flavor that. And I think giving the option of not instantly flavoring it as a magic effect would be very cool.
Yeah,
I think that is possible.
Flavoring I like.
It is. I mean, that's the whole point, though, is, realistically, the mechanics aside, it's a role-playing game. So for me, it's that's the most important part, is I want to tell a story. I want it to sort of make sense within the grand scheme of whatever setting it is. And if you're going with a ranger that isn't, you don't want it to feel magic based, I think that's great. I think that should be pretty unique to that person. Yeah. I think it has, it has a lot of potential, and I'm all about backstory. Unless it's Sammy, because Sammy doesn't do a backstory. Sammy writes a novella.
Fucking novel.
Listen, you better watch out for me. I'm coming. I'm coming to your doorstep.
Are you guys novel writers? I'm like bullet points.
Oh God, no.
I'm nice. I wrote like the TLDR, but I love to write.
No, Sammy wrote it was like 400 pages, and he's got like an ongoing journal too. So he's constantly adding to it.
Oh my God!
At its core, we know everybody argues about rules as written or rules as intended. It's just RAS. It's rules as suggested, and it's your table, and you make the choice.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, I'm gonna move us on from Deft Explorer because
he doesn't want us to keep taking the piss out of his story.
Back to it when he covers Deft Explorer improvement at 9th level.
Oh God.
No, I already mentioned that in the summary of it, so we're not going back to it.
Yeah.
We're not going back. Okay. Let's do ranger spellcasting again. So again, spell prep is no longer tied to your spell slots, and the amount of spells that you prepare are kind of in the ranger table. You can change one prepared spell every long rest. You have no longer access to cantrips, but you do get access to the new weapon mastery stuff, which we covered in the previous stream. So check that out if you want to know our thoughts on that. But yeah, to keep going round, you are next in line to the throne, Matthew. So take it away, spellcasting changes.
I don't know. To me, it doesn't feel like they did a whole lot of changing to it. I mean, they kind of tweaked it and made it more in line with other similar, utility classes. They did take away concentration on Hunter's Mark, didn't they?
Well, we're gonna get to that, so don't dive into that.
But it's a spell, and you told me to talk about spell casting.
No,
What's
the general
wrong with you?
spellcasting changes. General.
Yeah, I don't really have a comment on this. It just seems to kind of fall in line with the rest of the classes, which basically generally keeps things fair. Rangers aren't necessarily in general focused on their spellcasting ability. They are more focused on, I would say, their combat ability, and skills when it comes to, like being out in the wilds and taking that role. So as the scout and as the combatant, I think that's their primary. So I mean, their spellcasting they're still a backup spellcaster. So I don't think, mechanically or flavor wise, that has really changed dramatically. So that's, I think, where I'm going with that.
Right. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but in Tasha's, they introduced the Druidic warrior fighting style, which gave you access to cantrips. So I don't know why they've excluded that, because I actually think that was pretty good. Just give you another option for a fighting style. I don't know if anyone has anything to add on that specifically. Like, do you think they should bring Druidic warrior back, or is it a bad idea?
Stepping on toes, I guess, a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, it feels like it a little bit. Like, I feel like, again, this is my personal opinion. I dislike how much 5e just kind of merges so many classes together. Like, sometimes there is no real class distinction between things, because
Like class
subclasses are like
identity?
just typical. Exactly. Yeah. Right. Like, it feels like there are some times where I'm like, someone will ask to do something, and I'll be like, actually, I'd like to let you do this, but this is actually a feature that gnomes have and stuff. And being able to move that over and like identify that with someone else's skill sets for something else that someone's leveled up and stuff and done, I feel like it kind of becomes a bit of a cheat to then do it on another one and then kind of blend them together without like multi-classing and making it more flavorful, because I love multi-classing with like a role play aspect as well.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if you want to play a druid, why are you playing a ranger?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't know. But with the class groups, they do encourage that there is that crossover, with the primal stuff. The only thing I'll say is with Druidic Warrior, it was good because it gave you access to Shillelagh if you wanted it, and it made the ranger less mad, which is multiple ability score dependent, because you could just then invest purely into whiz rather than doing dex or strength and then whiz, and obviously maybe con as well as the third one. So it just helped that a little bit. Jack, you look like you got something to add on this, so if you've got anything, fire away.
I think Druidic Warrior and actually its divine equivalent, which had a name, are kind of sort of obsolete in a way in 1D&D, because the way they're doing fighting styles is they've described them all as first level feats, which is fine. But the thing is, there is already a first level feat that will get you 2 Druid cantrips as well as a Druid spell, Magic Initiate. So if you want to be a ranger and you want to have Shillelagh, you can do that. Everyone gets a feat at first level.
There we go.
So in a way, they've not removed the fighting style. They've just found another way to have it. Found it was a bit redundant,
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Now the part that I want to dig my teeth into. So favorite enemy basically means that you always have Hunter's Mark prepared. You can cast it a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier. You regain all uses back on a long rest. And here's the kicker. It requires concentration again. Before I hand this off to someone, this is a very passionate topic. I think I get it. I get why it's being deemed as overpowered in playtesting. the problem with the ranger is, 9 times out of 10, you're always going to want hunter's markup, and a lot of the other ranger spells are concentration, so that just inherently brings a problem. They tried to get around that in Tasha's by bringing in like a semi hunter's mark, but you still required concentration even though it wasn't a spell, so that just kind of sucked and fell to the wayside as well. Yeah, and like the only thing I would say maybe is like how you can fix it is you can maybe still, if you're concentrating on hunter's mark specifically, you can concentrate on a second spell. That way you still have the negative effects or still the negative consequences of concentrating on a spell, so that you can like be broken out of it. Whereas the previous iteration, you weren't concentrating, so there was no real way to drop it. So maybe that's like a good middle ground to go with there. But I'm sure the dungeon masters will have more to say on this. So that's all I wanted to say. But I'll give it to Jordan because you're next in line.
Okay. So we can get up to, it's a bonus action to cast.
Yes.
And we can get up to realistically like 15 uses with a +5 times 3, etc., without any additional magic items or any bump to your 20 limit. 15 uses of Hunter's Mark a day feels like enough. 15 free uses without spending a spell slot feels like enough to compensate for no longer having, like, if it just feels like enough. I agree that there are some tweaks that need to be made.
It's just equal to your wisdom modifier, so max would be 5 unless.
Am I looking at a different one? You can cast it a number of times. Oh, my brain misread that. Yeah. So
Not
yeah,
enough.
5. Nowhere near enough. Fuck that. It needs completely reworked.
Just the switch.
No, 5 is definitely not enough.
Hmm.
Hold on. Let me just reconfigure that. Yeah, it needs some
Reverse
it needs some significant changes to, because Hunter's Mark is that quintessential ranger spell, and it needs to feel like it.
So is 5 like the problem? I don't think 5's a problem. So Hunter's Mark lasts an hour, and you can retarget someone, right, as a bonus action, or is that just hex that works like that?
No, you can
you can.
retarget someone.
So
Yeah,
like
but
how
if you
many?
get-
Yeah, so if
you
it
get
lasts
hit
an
hard
hour,
enough,
if it lasts an hour, that's one. So that's obviously a 1 combat, like well into a 1 combat, if not 2 combats, right? So like, how many combats are you having in like a day at that point? Because like they've like tried to showcase, well, we're gonna nerf the feature by making it a concentration again, and then we're gonna kind of buff it by doing XYZ. And
it's
then
a concentration again.
Yep.
You can lose concentration on it. That's why 5.
I disagree
doesn't
with the
feel like
concentration
enough.
wholeheartedly.
but that makes that's like a nerf then, because you're making a concentration again, and then you still have to recast it again in the moment, and then
Make it I'm fine with spending a spell slot for it. Make it last 10 minutes, not be concentration. Having a spell like that, a ranger is a combat class and not just ranged. If you're in combat and you're fighting, a lot of rangers do dual wielding, styles. Every time you get hit, and rangers aren't known for having amazing armor class. Every time you get hit, you now have to make a concentration check. Every single time, and that to me kills the whole point of Hunter's Mark. If it's a combat thing, make it a damn ability. Allow you to use it a number of times a day per long rest. And have it only last for 10 minutes. That lasts a combat.
One change as
So-
well.
Oh, sorry.
Just this little caveat because it might affect discussions. From the so we're looking at the actual spell itself rather than the feature. It's changed to from you deal an extra 1d6 damage to the target whenever you hit it with a weapon attack to you deal an extra 1d6 force damage to the target the first time you hit it with an attack roll on any turn. So the spell has been nerfed even more than we think.
Oh, that's trash.
Yeah, I think it's
So bad.
garbage the way that they did it.
Oh no, that just slows down combat. It just
Yeah, it's utter shite.
What were
Throw
you
it
saying, though,
away.
Rhiannon? Let's give Rhiannon the
So-
floor.
I was gonna say, like, the way that the spell's been changed, absolute crap. Like, the spell should remain the same. It should be whatever damage you are doing with that weapon, extra d6 on that damage. It makes sense. It makes sense in the sense that Hunter's Mark is I'm hyper focusing on you. I'm not casting magic. This isn't suddenly a magic weapon. So why is it now doing a different kind of damage? It doesn't make sense. What I'm doing is hyper focusing. I'm making a critical hit basically. So I want to add that extra damage on there. But
I know where you're gonna go with this.
oh no, where I was going to go with this is I think it's perfectly fine for it to be concentration for that purpose in itself. It is for you hyper focusing. What I believe, however, is that there should be some kind of level up addition. When you're an Eladrin elf, when you take a different season and you level up, your Misty Step has extra effect. I think that should be the same for Hunter's Mark. When you level up in different subclasses, you get extra effects onto that Hunter's Mark. Make it more worthwhile for that concentration to be there. Not spending a spell slot for it as well means that when you do lose concentration, you can bring it back up again. Same way that you'd have to, on a bonus action, change the target and such. You still have to do that. The reason why I'd say it has to be concentration is because you've got characters like subclasses like the Monster Hunter, where it's part of your subclass build to be able to basically do Hunter's Mark as part of your build. So if you then suddenly had that not be concentration, Monster Hunter suddenly becomes broken as fuck at 3rd level. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. So because of that, they have to have that concentration in there. And if you want to cast Hunter's Mark wherever you want, build it to Monster Hunter. That's what you have to do. If you want to then make Hunter's Mark better and more levelable, add in extra cool effects. And if you're having that be a spell, give us something extra on top. That happens when you level up into different subclasses, I think.
To that end, one of the reasons why I don't like concentration on it is that it is very signature to a ranger. And there is a large majority of ranger spells that also have concentration, which means if you're going to use Hunter's Mark, you pretty much can't use anything else. And a ranger's going to use Hunter's Mark a lot. So that kind of negates the efficacy of a lot of their other spells. So
Lean.
I mean, there's that.
What if we lean into that like hyper focus angle and we make Hunter's Mark a bit more powerful? I still think keep concentration on it. Now, I think keep concentration on it, but give rangers specifically advantage to maintain concentration on the spell.
Yeah.
But the other thing is make it scale better, like you say, but implement disadvantage when you're attacking something that isn't your marked enemy.
It kind of works in the same way of where with the Paladin, the divine spell of trying to get someone's focus. I can't remember the name of it and such.
Compelled duel.
Compelled duel. So basically, if an enemy starts hitting someone other than you, they get disadvantage. So if you have Hunter's Mark but you haven't switched that over, disadvantage because you're not focusing on that person.
I like that.
Makes total sense.
I like that. That hyper focus, like you said, and go along with the way I described it, adding that in there. No concentration, 10-minute duration, which lasts the combat, and if you attack anything but the creature that you have Hunter's Mark on, you are at disadvantage. that makes it still useful, but and not broken. But it also means that another ranger has access to other spells that require concentration as well.
Chris
So-
Perkins, you watching this shit? We're fixing your game.
Let's
I guess
tag him when we post it up.
I guess how many concentration spells? I mean, obviously, I'm sure none of you know the answer off the top of your head, so don't worry about looking at it. But they get access to the primal spell list. I guess how many on that is mostly concentration?
A
A
fair
lot.
amount. It's
Yeah.
a druid spell list.
Yeah,
So they have a
oh
lot
my
for
God.
their wild shape.
I
Yeah.
was just looking at the good ones, and like Entangle's there at first level, Web's there at second level, Spike Growth is there at second level. There's a lot of good ones, and a Hunter's Mark does not compare particularly favourably to those damage-wise. So if you, I mean, to do the maths, if you have a 60% chance to hit, then you'll get more out of landing something that provides you with advantage on attack rolls, such as Fairy Fire, oh yeah, that's another first level one, Entangle, or Web, then you will out of Hunter's Mark, so long as you do at least 9 damage. Now, what does 9 damage look like? Well, if you're using a D8 weapon with a +3 modifier and the dueling fighting style, that's 9.5 at first level. So, Hunter's Mark... on the other hand, Hunter's Mark is more reliable. You just cast the spell. There's no saving throw. But Hunter's Mark is only for you, whereas with Fairy Fire, Entangle, etc., it's for everyone. The thing I found about the discussions about Hunter's Mark is Hunter's Mark, as written in 5e, is not that good a spell. Like it just isn't. Like a lot of the self benefiting spells, it's not as good as the teamwork spells, and the teamwork spells do the job a lot better. So having the whole Hunter's Mark thing, I do agree that it should probably retain concentration for what it's trying to do, but I also think it should be better at what it's trying to be. It needs to be doing more than a d6 additional damage if it's going to fight for your concentration.
Yeah, I think they're trying to make up for that by making it force damage, because almost nothing has resistance against force damage. So I think that's why they went with the type of damage instead of an additional or greater die size. But I agree, it should do more damage.
But almost nothing has resistance to to magical weapon damage. Which, at a certain point, that's what the ranger will be dealing, and they might be getting rid of some of the non-magical weapon damage resistances, or at least we're not seeing those mentioned. So I'm not even sure how good the force damage change is, because I think Hunter's Mark was always just whatever the damage your weapon was, which was usually piercing.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. It should be as well. Like Rhiannon said, it should be that you are just doing more damage because you are more effective with the weapon while they are under the effects of Hunter's Mark. And yeah, maybe add, you get to roll 2 damage dice of whatever weapon you're doing. So something like that.
Maybe even that you instantly, like, if you, I don't know, on some points, like when you level it up, if someone's like gone into like Gloomstalker or something like that, where they're super effective in Shadow, like if you shot this from Shadows, like you get your full dice, like you get max dice number on that hit or something, instead of rolling a second dice or something. You get those options.
Maximize the damage, that's cool.
How about this? You can call if you're in combat with friends, you've Hunter's Marked an enemy. We go with the disadvantage for attacking things other than that. How about you can use your bonus action to perform a sort of call out? Like say, that's where the weak spot is on the big monster. And then the first ally that lands a hit that turn also gets to add the Hunter's Mark damage.
That would be kind of cool. That could be a very cool scaling as well into that like subclass like sort of thing, like where you could scale that into a different build and stuff, or like choose further down the line how you want to adapt your Hunter's Mark. Like
Yeah.
I think that could be because Hunter's Mark, like Matt was saying, is such a ranger specific spell. It
Class
is
identity.
the ranger. It's
Class
class identity.
I kind of
Um,
like Jordan's thing though. It's like it reminds me of Lord of the Rings, Two Towers. You know, aim
Yeah.
for the neck. The armor is weak there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we
Boom. And
just
it's not even just advantage, it's then you get the extra damage. That's cool.
So
like
we
that.
just take out spellcasting, nuclear option, take out spellcasting, make Hunter's Mark this completely modifiable change-up thing, call it a day.
It becomes a core class feature the same way that paladins have their smite.
Well, that's what I
Yeah.
was saying. Make it a feature
Yeah.
instead of a
You're
spell. They
absolutely
can do it a
right.
number of times a day, and you know, I think because it is so signature for a ranger. Like honestly, like you know, Jack was saying, you know, it's not that effective compared to other spells that you might have access to. Other classes that would have access to the spell are even less likely to use it. So
Thing to combat how like OP paladins could be once they have some divine smites. Like we need some. There needs to be something. Absolutely. Because you know what that also then means? It means that you could like, because the one thing like that was like paladins struggle with, like with divine smites, they can only do it when something is on the ground next to them, basically. They can only do it when they are next to it and they can attack it melee wise. Having something that could do the equivalent of like a divine smite, maybe not that to that extent, but do that extra damage consistently at a range without it being sneak attack, so without needing the advantage and the other trickery that goes on with that, that could be really effective, very, very cool.
So
we're
we make
reworking the rangers entirely.
completely. We're making Hunter's Mark a class feature. We are giving it a certain number of uses a day. We're making it scalable. Are we doing the disadvantage on non-marked enemies when you have Hunter's Mark up?
yes.
Yeah, that's good balancing.
And do we scale it like it and the number of uses the same way that Bardic Inspiration scales? Just
I
copy
don't think that's a
that
bad
line.
idea. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Okay, so
a greater die.
Yeah.
The die expands, yeah.
All right, we're doing a one-shot right now. We're all gonna play test.
All rangers.
We're all rangers.
All rangers. We're all play testing it. It was
Finally, we have that additional thing from your subclass feature that makes it unique to your character.
I think we should actually settle on this and somebody actually submit it as
write that down.
We all submit it. I'll write it up and just give it to you to copy paste.
Write it up.
Okay, for the sake of brevity, I'm gonna move us on because we are running out of time. Yeah, Jeremy Crawford wakes up every day and throws darts at like Dristoerden because he hates rangers. That's what's been confirmed.
We're fixing them for you, I promise.
I don't know if you are. I don't know if you
Salvatore
are,
on the train.
I'll let you
on the subway.
Okay, next up is Conjure Barrage. And all this feature does is it basically means that you have Conjure Barrage prepped all the time. To kind of outline the differences from the 2014 spell to this one, this now does 5d8 damage compared to 3d8 damage, and again, like Hunter's Mark, it does force damage instead of the damage type being the same as the weapon that you've used to cast the spell, basically. So you are up on this one, Rhiannon. Not too much to say here, but if you've got anything, fire away.
I'm a record on repeat. I think that this as a overall class feature does essentially limit people if they do want to play a non-magical ranger. It's very hard for them to explain. Hard to explain this one without magic, boys. So
force damage.
Force damage. It's my mind working real hard.
We're bringing back the psionics.
So I like it. I do like it. I think it's like definitely a fun thing to have. It's definitely a good ranger spell. I don't know if I like it as a full class ability. I don't know if that's. I think I'd prefer it as like a subclass thing for like your Gloomstalkers, for your Fey Wanderers and such. I'm a big. My rangers I always play are Beast Tamer and Monster Hunters because I'm a big sucker for them. Just for them being like archers in that sense and working on that like I'm I do the same thing all the time. I like it. So this, for example, for me, I then go, this is useless to me. I can't use this because I flavorly can't find a way to do this. So that's on me, but I won't deny it's a cool scaling thing to have.
Yep.
I
Yes,
think
it
it's
is.
supposed to be a mirror for the paladin getting, what was it, Blinding Smite, ultimate paired at 9th level. And that the Deft Explorer improvement's supposed to be like a mirror for Abjure foes, although they're completely different. And of course,
Yeah.
both classes get 3rd level spellcasting.
Yeah, I mean, it does give the Rangers some good AoE, which I guess they previously struggled with. So that's cool. But yeah, we're gonna move it on because we're getting towards half time. So the final feature we're gonna focus on is.
I would like to say one thing. All of these
Go on then.
force damage things, they're basically turning Rangers into the Ranger from the OG cartoon. It's everything's
Oh
force
my
damage.
god! Oh my god!
You're so fucking right.
As you are. What?
Yeah.
You know
think
what? I
I'm
love
too-
them again. I love it again.
It literally is, though. It's all force damage.
I think I'm. Oh man, I've never seen the OG D&D cartoon. I'm a little too young for that one.
Still
used to
can.
know
They're all
video.
online.
Oh
They're
hell
all
yeah!
online. I think I've got a video cassette that my dad had recorded for me of it when he used to watch it.
A video cassette.
Nice.
Yeah, it used to jam out when the beholder came on screen, and you used to thump it real hard to get it to go again. Anyway,
Classic. Yeah. So the 20th level feature is Foe Slayer. So basically, again, this replaces your epic boon that was previously there. If you attack a marked creature that's been marked with Hunter's Mark, you can add your Wisdom modifier to the attack roll, and you can also add your Wisdom modifier to the damage. And Jack, you are on this one, my sir.
Which
I
one are
think
we
it's
doing,
decent
by the way?
enough 11th level feature.
Oh Slayer.
Is
Foe
this
Slayer.
okay? This is the feature. Got it. I was still on spells. I just want to make sure I'm displaying the right page.
I was just saying, I think it's a decent enough 11th level feature. 11th level is when the paladin gets radiant strikes, which is about 4.5 damage per attack. You know, this will add the wisdom modifier, which is going to be maybe 4. You know, but the problem is, you know, as you've introduced it as a 20th level feature. I'm not sure you've read that right. It can't be a 20th level feature. It's just not that good.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm serious. If it were an 11th level feature, I would be absolutely fine with it. You know, that's about where the paladin is their improvement, where the barbarian is a damage improvement, where the fighter is a damage improvement. But it's just a terrible capstone. It's, you know, it could potentially be as big as +5, you know, damage, but I don't know. I mean, you do get to also add it to the attack roll, you know, potentially turning it into a hit if you've got your Hunter's Mark on it. You know, that spell that we definitely all love and would still be casting at 20th level. But I just don't think it's that good a good capstone. I'm like happy with it being on the Ranger, you know, the Ranger class, just not as a capstone. It's not as bad as Hexmaster. That's my final thought.
Well, it's good that we give you that Mafsy one there because you've basically proved, because it's a Mafsy feature and you've proved that it's not good enough for 20th level. So
I just wanted to add, it
Yeah.
also has the caveat that they have to use Hunter's Mark.
yeah.
further
Which, if it
tying
was
that
a
into
class feature, it'd be different.
it should be a class feature. That is further proof that it should be a feature, not a spell.
Absolutely. And if, for example, if we had I'm calling it R now, if we implemented our scaling feature of that Hunter's Mark, combining that with a foe slayer that could then add to that scaling and kind of maximize upon it, that then becomes way more viable. Because Jack is absolutely right. That as a 20th level, it does not hit the mark correctly. Like it's compared to the bard that got powered kill and powered heal, like you're like, oh, if you missed, you can fix it.
Yep.
They missed the hunter's mark on that one.
All right,
Ah,
this has been a great stream, everyone. All right.
Well, the Max.
it's like at 20th level, you're more better at shooting things.
Okay, but we can give him a little credit because it's better than what Foe Slayer used to be.
True.
Not enough.
But
This
only,
is
only by like an inch.
Foe Slayer is no Slayer. That needs to be
there's
reworked.
no slaying being done. Like you're like foe damaging, but like I don't know. Like if you're gonna call it Slayer, like make it just this powerful big boy shot that does big damage numbers. Where I don't have to feel like I have to have the Hunter's Mark and then, you know, obviously not another concentration spell because I can't do that. And then like try to cast another spell and have to use a spell to try to get big damage numbers in classes that can just innately do that in combat.
Why not like instead trade it off for like the assassin class in that sense, where every hit is then a crit hit. When you hit 20th level, you got Hunter's Mark equipped, crit hit.
Yep.
If you're having to use concentration for it, if you've then got the risk of losing that and stuff, you're at 20th level, baby. Crit hit.
Or just make it a class feature and they get a saving throw.
There
When
you
hit them
go.
with it, they have a saving throw. If they fail the saving throw, the hit is a critical.
I love that. There you go. We fixed the rangers.
We've done it.
And since we're scaling it as a class
Sam does
feature,
it the crit.
you're adding like by 20th level, it's probably an extra D12 at least.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. That then rivals the paladins with all their damn stripes.
Max is
Here's-
slumping at me.
Here's the real
You
question.
look so pained.
Sam, as a ranger main, would you be happy to play the version of the ranger that we've talked about?
It's definitely better than this. It's definitely better than this.
Hear that,
I
folks?
was
Seal
so-
of approval.
I was so happy with the earlier UA. Like, I don't know, it's just like you've given me the goods and then you just took them off me.
Yeah,
you know?
and then they nerfed it. They hit it pretty
They're
Yeah,
hard.
then they
torturing
just
that.
you specifically.
They
You.
just
Like
put it
yeah.
all over it.
you.
Yeah.
It's about class identity.
You're one of six. You're one of 6 ranger mains, and
They really said, guys, watch this. Is gonna be super fun. Look at this. Oh no, it's gone again. Wait, watch it. He's gonna cry.
look, he's gonna cry. He's gonna cry.
He's gonna cry.
You're gonna cry about it. Ooh.
Okay. So any final thoughts on this ranger as a whole before we move on? Anything that I chose not to talk about that you want to talk about just very quickly?
I have one thing.
Yep.
Why no longer do they get blind fighting? Where's that gone?
No, they still do.
No?
At 18th level, you get blind sight. Well, you get blind sight at a range of 30 feet.
Yeah, which sucks. Give us blind
Yeah.
fighting back.
Yeah, not all of the Tasha's fighting styles got moved in.
Yeah.
Some stuff in Tasha's did get moved in. When we go to cover the rogue, you'll find steady aim got moved there. But it's just not
I
everything
hate steady aim.
has made it through. And I don't know if it's going to be moved through later, or you know whether they're just going to. Yeah, I'd add it back, but there we go.
The only other thing I could think of is 14th level Nature Veil, like being able to turn invisible without using a spell slot, so you don't have to like flavor it as like, here's my spell being cast, and we're like, I'm just so stealthy because I understand the environment I'm in. That's cool. That's fine. That's a nice change. Good for flavor. Take a shot.
Take a shot.
Delicious.
Okay.
Don't be mad, but the Tasha's Ranger got that at 10th level.
Yeah. and it's pretty good as well. The rogue is like the ranger, a expert class. Its primary ability is dexterity, and in terms of hit dice proficiencies in armor, in relation to the 2014 version, these are all the same, minus the loss of the performance skill and loss of the hand crossbow and longsword proficiencies. But they have gained the use of whips and scimitars now. If you wanted to play a rogue in this new edition of D&D, you will start with either 20 arrows, a burglar's pack, 2 daggers, leather armor, a quiver, a short bow, short sword, thieves' tools, and 18 gold pieces. Or you can forego all of that and take 110 gold pieces to spend on whatever your heart desires. I'm going to do a quick changelog recap just to kind of outline the different changes that have taken place. This is the second iteration of the rogue, basically. And then we'll kind of get into the nitty-gritty of the features itself. And I'll stop talking. So the first one is sneak attack. This is no longer required to be used on your turn with the attack action. I know we quarreled about that last time, so that's a pretty good thing. Weapon mastery is also available to rogues. This is a new first level feature. Rogue subclasses, these levels now match the level progression in the 2014 rogue. Again, that's a pretty consistent change throughout all these classes. Steady aim, which is a new third level feature. This was introduced in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. They're making it now canon in the PHP. Cunning strikes is a new 5th level feature. Expertise has returned to 6th level. Evasion has been moved back to 7th. Reliable talent has moved from 11th to 7th level. Subtle strikes has been removed because of the addition of steady aim. Improved cunning strike is a new 7th level feature. Devious strikes is a new 14th level feature which builds on cunning strike. Definitely get into that in a second. Elusive has returned to 18th level, and Stroke of Luck has returned to 20th level, again replacing the epic boon that was previously there. So we'll start with the quintessential feature of a rogue, which is a sneak attack. And like I said, this is no longer tied to your turn, and what this means is that you can apply sneak attack to a reaction, like a held action or an opportunity attack, and basically it just gives you a little damage bump there by re-enabling you to do that, because that's what you could do in 2014. The first iteration didn't allow you, but they've brought it back. So what do? We started with Rhiannon first, then we went Bex first on the next one. So we'll do Jordan. You can take the sneak attack on this one, my friend.
I mean, it's just returning to what is essentially the current version of sneak attack.
Mm-hmm.
Like at its core. And I enjoy the current version of sneak attack. I feel like it's strong in the class identity department. It lets rogues keep up with the other martial classes and sometimes keep up with other like spell casting classes, depending on situational advantages. But yeah, it just feels good. It was already felt good when you were playing a rogue, especially if you had multi-classed into rogue sort of thing, or like I fucking love a rogue warlock. It just feels good. Nothing else.
Unless you are the recipient of said sneak attack, it probably doesn't feel good at that point.
At that point, it kind of hurts a little bit.
They might like it. It doesn't.
Okay.
I think we're all just in agreement with that one.
I think
Yeah.
Listen, I think if it's good, you don't need to fix something that ain't broken. Like, it's a good standard. I think Jordan hit the nail on the head. It's good for that class identity, and it's balanced.
Class identity.
That's gonna be like the quote of this video.
on somewhere on the overlay.
You should.
Oh, I've been saying it right since fucking episode
Oh yeah, you
one
get credit.
of this.
You get credit.
Just put it underneath like his or above like where his like face is, and just put like a little counter.
Instead of like at, it's just like, Jordan at class identity.
I've got a plugin that can actually count that.
God. Okay.
All right. So, the only two things I really wanted to focus on for this were sneak attack and this new cunning strike stuff. There is a lot to it, so what we'll do is we'll take it like step by step, and we'll do what we previously do, and where I hand it off to a DM to talk about. But yeah, so cunning strike. Basically, what this does is you can now add an effect to your sneak attack at the expense of damage. The DC. So some of the things you can do have a difficulty check. And the DC equals 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your dexterity modifier. The first ones that you get access to are disarm, poison, and trip. Disarm costs you 1d6 damage. It's a dex save, and if they fail, they drop an item that they have in their hand. Poison is also cost 1d6. This time it's a con save, and if they fail, they're poisoned for a minute. However, there's a caveat on this that says that you need the poisonous kit to activate it. And then trip, this is also 1d6 cost. It's a dex save, and if they fail, they fall prone. And the caveat is they have to be large or smaller. And then, I actually missed one. There's withdraw, also a d6. And after you attack, you can move half your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. So there's more to this, and we'll come back to that in a sec, but just for where we are now, we'll throw it over to Rhiannon for their opinion on this.
I love it. It's kind of basically taken one of the best things about Battlemaster Fighter, and it's thrown that into Rogue in the way that I love to get to be record on repeat. It's not magic. It's pure expertise. It is a rogue doing things that would make sense. I would like to disarm them. I want to try and poison. Really good utility things that rogues are good for. I love a rogue being used for pure damage, but I also love a rogue that's like, hey, I'm going to make this difficult for you so that way the paladin and the barbarian can just come in and smash you up, mate. Like, I love that. It allows for great teamwork, great collaboration, really great team building as well. So it makes it super effective. I don't actually think the cost is super high. I think it's a good playoff, similar to how Blood Maledicts work for Blood Hunters and stuff. Like, the cost works well because if it pays off real good. Like disarming a magic weapon from someone, that's incredible. Like if you disarmed like the Sword of Cass from someone, they instantly lose their legendary reactions, everything. So that can be really, really effective. And I think it throws so much into how the rogues can then strategically play, other than just, I hit it, I do extra damage.
Yeah, I think you summarized that pretty nicely.
Yeah.
It's great.
Anyone have anything else to add at this base level before we start talking about the extra stuff?
It doesn't say, unless I can't read, which is it's likely. It doesn't say that you can't do multiple at 7th level. Does it say? Maybe I just can't read.
There's add 1, and there's a later feature that lets you add 2.
Oh, sorry. I can't read. So you can add 1. Okay, I see. Never mind. Sorry. Since I can't read, I was just thinking at 7th level, just doing all of it.
Just
They drop their sword, fall on their ass, they're poisoned, and you peace out.
You
Yeah,
full
literally.
John Wick them as a rogue.
Listen, 20th level feature, just let him do that. Add it as many times as you want. Anyway, sorry.
That's funny though. Do them all.
One little word is all it takes to completely. I was gonna be like, that's about to be busted. And it's like, no, okay, that's actually really fair and balanced.
Like a full-on JoJo move.
Who needs
That's
to
monks.
be? Who needs to be a monk when you could just go crazy as a rogue?
Okay, so yeah, so this scales up. So at 11th level, like we just found out, you can apply 2 effects at once, but obviously you pay double the cost if you do that. And at 14th level, you get more options. These include Daze, Knockout, and Obscure. Daze costs 2d6. It's a con save, and if you fail, you gain the dazed condition. Knockout costs you 6d6. It's a con save, and if you fail, you become unconscious for 1 minute or until you take damage. And Obscure costs 3d6. It's a dex save, and it inflicts the blinded condition. Jack, how we feel about these buffs? Well, not buffs, but extra features.
Yeah, so I've been having a look at them, and they all seem reasonably well well balanced against each other. I know Knockout's a big expensive one, but it should be. The unconscious condition is extremely nasty, although they do get to repeat the saving throw. So I think this is been a good addition. I can't see any any standouts like among the three that would make that would be unusually bad or like unusually overpowered. So I think this is the case where they've they've thought long and hard about this new mechanic, and they've had to go taking it bringing it out. I think it's been pretty good. One thing I will say though it's mostly about the rogue in general, but they've always had a thing where their damage output tends to be a bit lower than the fighter, and whilst getting to add all these conditions is very nice, they're still they're still somewhat hamstrung by their damage isn't as good as some of the other, some of the other marshals, now the warriors. So I was looking for this playtest for for a notable damage improvement as well as some more interesting features. So I definitely think the interesting features are good and interesting, and I should stay. But I would appreciate them looking into the rogue's damage a bit more.
I kind of feel like since they did not get like a damage like output increase, that since it's part of like that expert group, they're trying to go like hard into, they might not have the highest damage output, but they're definitely more like versatile or utility. Maybe that they're just trying to hard go into that with like all these different kind of abilities and stuff.
They're more tactical at this point.
Yeah, I think that's what they're trying to do. Maybe. I mean, I like doing big numbers with damage, so I always love to see that. But yeah.
I will say.
Yeah, go for it.
They've received a small buff, or what feels like a small buff at first, but when you really start thinking about the implications, it could be great. They are almost certainly one of their weapon masteries is going to be Nick, which allows them to use their offhand attack as part of their attack action instead of as a bonus action, which means there's no action economy issues with cunning action anymore.
Oh,
True story.
Okay.
Yeah, more opportunities to proc the sneak attack, especially allowing you to now sneak attack again as a reaction.
Yep.
I can't wait to play a rogue.
Yeah, that's actually, I hadn't even considered that. That's mental.
Yeah, that interaction is fun.
Isn't sneak attack still once per turn?
Yes.
Yes, but you can still activate it on someone else's turn as well. Which the wording in the first rogue, they writ that out of ruling, but they've introduced it back.
Well, I mean, yeah, it would be somebody else's turn, but isn't that still within your turn? Like your turn comes back. Somebody else's action, but it is. Yeah, you're right. Would be. Yep.
To be once per round, then. So once.
Yeah, it's once per turn. You're right. That is kind of gross.
The way the Nick interaction works is, I believe the attack is still on your turn, but it just means you have a better chance of applying the sneak attack. Because if you've got one attack that you make with 60% chance of hitting, if you're making 2 attacks and you only need one of them to hit, then the chances of you applying your sneak attack go up to 84%.
Mm-hmm. But if you choose like the hide action as your bonus action first, you then get advantage on that hit if you can make it work properly,
You still have to justify it. You can't just like,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That
You need
would
to
send-
justify the hide, but
That if you do it between attacks, that would send it up to 93.6%. I think.
so the hide action would work best with if you're doing ranged.
Yeah.
Hide then shoot. So
with ranged, you're more likely to have Vex, I believe. As a rogue, that's kind of one that you'd lean towards. So you have an advantage on your next attack roll against a creature before the end of your next turn. So you take the hide action to hit it to get the first advantage with Vex. That triggers the first sneak attack, and then Vex just keeps going.
Oh my
Which
God.
also, when you factor that back into the ranger, not to beat that dead horse.
Oh, it's come back.
Oh gosh. Man.
Yeah, there's a lot of interactions we didn't think about with
Rogues
the
is-
weapon masteries.
Rogues are gonna be funny. They're gonna be goofy. I could just see at 14th level, you have 7 dice. You get the knockout, and then you just use the withdrawal. So you're just running around the battlefield, knocking people out and running away.
kind of like flavor wise, like a
It's gonna be
monk.
It's gonna be so goofy.
Monks are good at like hitting and then maneuvering away. So yeah, I think rogues now became more of like battlefield tacticians.
Yeah. Which I think is really good because you did have the rogue subclass, which was tactician, I think, or something like that.
You're talking about
There was,
mastermind.
Mastermind, yeah. So combining that with this, it gives them an extra boost because beforehand they were a bit, it's okay. So I have adding this and making them more strategically tactical, making them more utility in the sense of like combat strategy. One gives those combat strategists like players like so much fun to work with, and it also means that you don't have to play a thief to be able to get the fast hands to be able to do stuff like this. Because it was always a case of if you did want to do stuff like that, if you wanted to be more utility, you had to play a thief because you had to have fast hands.
Yeah.
Because without that, you wouldn't be able to do all of that. Now with this, there's way more flexibility in what you're allowed to do as a rogue. So.
And
Oh,
go ahead.
on.
No, you go.
Oh, I was just going to say, and for new players, you might find something simple. If you don't use any of the sneak attack modifiers, you still do big damage. Which is not true for spellcasting. If you don't use your slots, they may as well not exist. But not true here.
Yeah. And it does specify once on each turn. So like I guess like if you have like reactions or like I guess with like Battle Master with the Commander's Strike, I think it's the where you can like have someone make an attack. You can use it then too, right?
Yeah.
Sentinel Rogue. Go ahead. Hit another target.
Do it again.
Go ahead. It's gonna be dumb.
Here's a nutty interaction for you. Bonus action dash, thanks to cunning action, doubles your movement speed, and then hit the withdraw. That's fun.
Oh my gosh. Oh my god, I feel like they just made rogues so
just silly
rogues
goofy guys.
Rogues are already pretty fun to play, but now they're just
it's real fun.
We take a little bit of Battle Master and a little bit of Monk and a little bit.
Mix that all together. No, that's so good. That's so fun. And then if you take any like raise which like ups your movement speed slightly, just Sonic the Hedgehog.
Eric
Yeah, they're not
Hawker
so
Rogues.
pigeonholed. Like they're
Can
not
they-
all about the sneak attack anymore.
Can they
Mm.
outspeed monks now?
I don't want to think about it.
I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, no.
I don't
I
think
mean,
that's possible.
monks can also
You
get their own bonus action dash as well, although it's expensive.
Mm,
But certainly,
have you-
resources aside, monks can be faster.
yeah.
But have you considered this now? Now a haste on your monk and your rogue. You get a sorcerer twin spell casting that. I'm just saying.
It'll be silly. I'm just thinking of any creature that has like a fly speed, like anything that with the rogue, just dive bombing and coming back up with the withdraw. It's gonna be so bad.
Now we're talking class synergy.
Mhm.
Be interesting. Uh-huh.
Oh no! Oh god! I'm having so much fun thinking about it from a player, but as a DM, I'm gonna be something's gonna happen.
Oh, no. I wouldn't worry too much about the withdraw. Because you see, it's good for a rogue wielding short swords and scimitars. But if they were wielding a whip, they're now proficient in. They were doing this already.
But you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not going to see many rapier rogues because the whip is so much better on a rogue than a rapier is.
Oh yeah, 100%. The fact that you can do a melee attack from 10 feet away. You're like, I'm
Mhm.
in your range. What are you gonna do?
Mhm.
Whip paladins. 10-foot
What?
range.
What in
Smite.
the Trevor Belmont? What in the Trevor Belmont? I'm just saying.
In the Trevor Belmont.
What Mars? So whip has finesse and reach.
Mhm.
It starts with slow automatically, but I think it can get some other things.
As long as it meets the prerequisites, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but do rogues actually have access to it?
What they do? Yeah.
Rogues
Because
have
it's
access
finesse
to the
weapon.
whip because it's a finesse weapon, and they're now proficient in martial weapons with the finesse property. They
Oh.
won't get the option to add other masteries though, because that is a fighter thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
But they do
Okay.
get, but they will get access to the slow mastery for whip, which is the one where not only are you whipping them and running away, possibly cunning action dashing, but they're also slower to pursue.
Oh god, they're gonna be so annoying. I'm so excited.
That's with the sorcerer's
I'm gonna have to
Railthrow.
really think about how to handle things like that when it comes
Yeah.
up. I'm gonna have to use my big brain.
We're thinking like, wow, this is gonna be so much fun to play, and then all of us sat here as DMs like,
Mm-hmm. Lamentation, that's us. We just lament the rogue.
Guys,
All
you'll
right.
know you can give your monsters class levels.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I do. I do. I
Oh
definitely
my
do.
god. I'm gonna
I-
have just it's gonna be
Matt's
so
got, like
annoying.
the perfect like evil DM like mustache whittle. Like I don't doubt that Matt comes out here like don't mess with me. I could ruin your whole day.
Don't mess with me. I got a 5th level rogue right now.
Oh
You're
yeah.
also you're also giving like Silas Briarwood vibes as well right now, Matt.
Oh,
Oh no.
Really?
Oh
I
no.
don't
I
give
just
him
remember-
that power.
I
Don't
remember
do
like
that.
I remember Travis's cosplay that he did one time on Critical Role. It's the same vibes.
Get this man a great sword.
No. Oh no. You've just leveled Matt up like 10 levels.
In what class?
Ooh. What class are you, Matt? We've sidetracked, but I want to know.
I don't
are-
have a class.
He's a great old one, Warlock. Come on.
No,
He's
I'm
his
the
own
great
patron.
old one.
He's
I was about to
the
say,
great old.
I'm the great old one. What are you talking about?
That's
he
what I
is
meant.
the great old one.
That's what I meant.
Really?
He is the
You're making me Silas? Damn.
He's kind of
That's it.
spicy.
That's a great character. Come on, just take it on the chin.
Matt, who's
No,
kind
I'd
of
say the dude's clearly a mystic.
Who, me?
Yeah.
What, from the Dark Crystal?
No,
That was my
from
first
Unearthed
thought. I was like,
Arcana.
what?
Probably from previous editions.
Oh.
They just start going.
Screaming.
Right, we have
That was so
descended
good.
into chaos. But they were the only two things I really wanted to focus on for the rogue. A lot of the stuff is just kind of reshuffling of certain features. They brought steady aim back, which I think is fine. Bex, you are next up. Is there anything in particular you wanted to highlight, talk about on the rogue that we haven't already?
I'm doing a little peeksy.
Or Pixie?
Yeah. I wasn't here the last time we talked about Rogue, so I'm just doing a little gander, doing a little look around.
Yep.
I think it's a pretty cool guy. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
He's just a neat guy.
A neat guy. I'm just now looking at like the 20th level and just if you fail it, you can turn it into a 20. Like, why not? What a neat little guy. That's a good 20th level feature. Automatic success. If you follow rules like that, I don't think the stuff that they have has natural 20s as automatic successes. I just do it that way because that's,
A lot of
But at level
DMs do it that way.
yeah. I also do like tiered successes. So like even if you have like a 20, but it's like a 21, like okay, but you need.
Mm-hmm.
So
I usually do it as like a nat 20 is like a +10 to the roll, and then a nat 1 is a -10 to the roll.
I see. Okay.
Because that way it still gives people like a chance to like if they've got like a +17 but they get like a -1, like it's just like a 7 then instead of like an 18 but they've still failed, like it then becomes a 7 and such, and like it's fine because like I think a lot of people forget like you could be really good at something and still fail at it. Like I failed at breathing earlier and I do that all the time.
That is true. That was a good point. My contention has always been with reliable talent, and it makes me sad that they lowered the level on that just because it is so annoying, especially at higher levels, especially if you take things like skilled or skill mastery as a feat like my wife did and basically can't roll at her current level under like a 27 on her stealth. So it gets incredibly annoying, especially if they get advantage on anything. It's just it's tough. It makes skill challenges kind of broken because she took a lot of the knowledge skills, which means she's just inherently has access to, lore. You rely on those skills. You can't roll below a 10. She has a decent intelligence, so on a regular, she's getting like 21s to 25s, depending on the skill.
You're getting the lore book. Like, just send the lore document.
It's like, why do I even just write this stuff as a secret? I'm going to tell you right now. I'll hand you the script. So
your wife saw how important skills are in your games and just went,
she knows. She knows better. That's why she did it.
Fuck that.
She takes
Yeah.
she does her downtime activities to take tool proficiencies. So she gets all of those too. So yeah, if she's watching, yes, she is watching.
Oh, the glasses are up.
See? She said, yeah, my skill peen is enormous. She's not lying. It's annoying to have that on the regular. So yeah, I'm not a fan of reliable talent. I'd say give it a reroll or something, but
I always felt advantage would be sort of better for reliable talent. Just because one of the whole points of bounded accuracy in 5e were sometimes unlikely people could be good at stuff and sometimes unlikely people could be bad at stuff, and it allows you to set consistent DCs and etc. Now, expertise already puts some stress on it, but not in a way I consider unacceptable. But reliable talent just bringing the ceiling right up is, not the best thing to happen. I'm kind of okay if it happens at 11th level because it doesn't happen for very long. But at 7th level, it's a bit.
No, I'm with you because it kind of also takes away like a really big effect from one of the colleges from Bards. I believe it's the
Lore?
college, not College of Law. It's maybe College of Glamour or something like that. But basically, they can't roll lower than a 10 on deception or persuasion.
Eloquence.
And
It's
that's
eloquence. Yes, 'cause
eloquence. Thank you.
I've played one. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's such a big thing, but it's only those two ones. So it's like very specific skills. I think if reliable talent was maybe something you could only use like 5 times a day or something, or maybe like 3 times a day or something, you could choose exact roles that you could do it per long rest.
Or you
I think
pick
that
skills. You pick a number
Yeah,
of your
things
skill
you're
proficiencies that it
proficient
works with.
in, or things you have expertise in, or
Because that's all of them that you're proficient with.
All of them.
At level
It's
7.
Too many. And then if you take like skill expert as a feat as well, it just then becomes like impossible for you to fail any rolls unless you get that 1 in 20 chance.
It ruins the bell curve on things like traps.
Mhm.
So like if you're trying to remove traps and you have reliable talent, in order to make them a challenge, they have to be higher difficulty. So
And
that,
and if you actively try to make them a challenge for the rogue, what that actually means is they have a 50% chance of failing, which might not be necessarily what you wanted. You might be thinking more of the 25% ballpark. But reliable talent would, if you wanted to set out with the intent of challenging the rogue, you would be forced to do it a way that gives them a 50% chance of failing. And well, the others, I'd be surprised if it were too far below 100.
yeah, so to me it just kind of ruins things. It makes, obviously it helps rogues in that they can automatically just turn to a die roll. But then that also kind of takes out the role-playing aspect to it. If you just automatically default to things because you can't roll below a 10.
What if we tied it into the rogue's dependence on d6s and they just get to roll 2d6? It still adds like, they're going to get a minimum of +2, maybe up to a +12, but it doesn't crash the bell curve as much.
It takes fun from the dungeon master.
Yeah. No, because the Dungeon Master is also a player at the table. Like they are also playing the game. So as soon as you're making life difficult for the Dungeon Master in a way that isn't like strategic, that's not like working with them or playing against them and stuff, it's just a case of no, absolutely not. I'm gonna ruin all your entire plans because I've rolled high enough for all of this, even though I only rolled a 5.
Plus, all the other player characters automatically default to the rogue, because why would you try and make the roll when you know the rogue is going to be better than you no matter what?
Mm-hmm.
Even the the bard, and that's kind of supposed to be the bard's shtick.
Yeah.
So it literally, like, whenever, because I have a high level campaign that's been going on for over 5 years at this point, that my wife is in, they're like level 17. Nobody else is going to make rolls because she can't roll below a 10, and she has a lot of skills. So why would they even try? So I think it is a fun killer as an ability. It's too much. Takes away from the story. It detracts from the story, if you ask me.
I'm with you.
So that's my biggest contention with the rogue, because they're also hard to hit and damage because of their abilities. They're hard to hit and they're great at skills. Just everyone play rogues.
Yeah.
Full party of rogues, and then everyone gets to take turns on skill challenges.
So I mean the rogues the rogues might be able to hide a lot, but the ones that don't, can still be killed, in a lot of the usual ways. And the ones that hide, they can't hide from a cloud kill.
Yeah, but they still like can save for nothing on a
Yeah.
saving throw.
Oh, well, only when they get stroke of luck.
Well, no, it's
Oh,
their
wait.
what is it?
No, because I deliberately picked Cloud Kill because Cloud Kill is a Constitution save, so it's not affected by evasion.
There you go. They
True.
still do get.
That's right. That is true.
Oh yeah, that is true. No, actually, because they wouldn't even get their uncanny dodge with that, would they? Because it wouldn't be.
Not an
Nope.
attack.
Mm-mm.
And Cloud Kill moves. So even if it wasn't targeting them originally, well, it might.
It's
end up
coming
being-
for you.
You're targeting them. Jack came into this. He went, "I ain't
You hear
taking
that, Aislinn? Cloud kill.
this.
Expect
It's
it.
coming."
Expect it. Every
Coming for you.
character class now is gonna have cloud kill.
First level spell, Cloud Kill.
Boom. And you
Alright.
can blame Jack. So
Are we good on the rogue before we move on to Warlock?
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Sorry, I just
Because
read
my only
Ash's
thought
response.
is, I don't think Stroke of Luck is that
Cloud
good
Kill
for
these
20th
nuts.
level ability, but it is certainly a high-end ability. I just don't feel it's 20th level worthy. I'm sorry, it's once per short rest.
yeah.
The end.
Alrighty. So basically that between what we've already done in this stream and our last stream, we've covered all the classes that were released in UA6. We took a little bit of a hiatus, so we didn't really cover anything from UA5. Last stream we done the weapon mastery stuff, which was released in UA5, but the Warlock will basically signal the start of the UA5 stuff. So if you want to switch to the different PDF, I know Matt will bring the other one up on screen anyway. But we're doing Warlock now, and then the other 4 classes will be covered in a future stream, basically. The Warlock is is part of the Mage class group. Its primary ability, which you'll be interested in right off the bat, is either Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. This is different to the 2014, where it was just Charisma. You can now choose. Hit dice, proficiency, and armor are all the same, with the addition of medium armor on top of light armor. And if you were playing a Warlock in this new iteration of the rules, your starting equipment would consist of a Arcane Focus, a Book of Occult Lore, 2 daggers, leather armor, Scholar's Pack, a sickle, and 15 gold pieces. Or you can forego that and take 100 gold pieces and spend it on whatever your Warlocky heart desires. I'm going to run through a change log and then we'll focus on the specifics. So, first thing is medium armor is now included in the class's armor training to better support Warlocks that walk a melee-orientated path. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure only Hexblade's got access to that previously. Pack Boon has moved from 3rd to 1st level. This now gives you Eldritch Blast and Hex and a spell of your choice from a group of 3, all of which are now exclusive to Warlocks. The spell you choose is connected to the spellcasting ability choice you then make, and the spells incorporate the previous functionality of the 3 packed options. That's a lot of jargon there, but we'll get into that. Pack Magic has been replaced by spellcasting. The most requested change to Warlock has been for them to be able to use their spells more often. They therefore now cap out at 15 spell slots instead of 4, but as you'll soon see, they work now like a half caster instead. Eldritch Invocations now cap out at 9 rather than 8. Mystic Arcanum has become a Eldritch Invocation, which is now available as soon as 5th level. Previously, the Warlock waited until 11th to get this. Contact Patron is a new 11th level feature, allowing a Warlock to connect directly to their patron. That's pretty cool. Hexmaster is a new 18th level feature. Eldritch Master has been removed since it was based on Pact Magic. An Epic Boon is a new 20th level feature that increases an ability score and also raises that score's maximum to 30 and gives an Epic Boon feat. This is kind of different to a lot of the level 20 features that we've recapped today. But yes, we're going to start with Pact Boon. So just to recap that again, this means you always have Eldritch Blast and Hex prepared. You choose a pact and where the entity of that pact comes from. So Feywild, Shadowfell, etc. The 3 pacts are, as you know, Pact of the Blade, Pact of the Chain, and Pact of the Tome. If you go Pact of the Blade, your spellcasting ability is either Wisdom or Charisma, and your Pact spell is Pact Weapon. If you go Pact of the Chain, your spellcasting ability is Intelligence or Charisma, and your Pact spell is Pact Familiar. And if you go Pact of the Tome, your spellcasting ability is Intelligence or Wisdom, and your Pact spell is Book of Shadows. I've talked for a while, so we'll hand this over to one of the DMs to talk about Pact Moon. We went Jordan last time, so we'll go Jack on this one. You are first up to the plate, good sir.
So I quite like the idea of having the Pact Boon at first level, because even if they're not willing to have the subclass at first level, which when this was written they were very much for standardized subclasses, I think it is nice to at least have something that shows that you've got contact with your patron. So I think it is good that they did that if they're willing to actually put a subclass in there. The pacts themselves are, fine, but I feel that the Pact of the Blade is going to run into a few of the same issues that 5e had. The armor isn't a problem because Warlocks get that, which was always a problem for Warlocks in 5e, Blade Locks in 5e, that unless you went Hexblade, they were always poorly armored. So that's fine, but there was always a bit of a problem with the Hexblade. It was often used for multi-class dipping, for mostly for paladins, but occasionally also for bards, or I guess some sorcerers. Just because it provided an easy way of getting to use your spellcasting modifier on the weapon, and this was something that was complained about when Xanathars came out, and it's good to know that 5 years later, what they thought that was really missing was for the cleric and druid to do it too. So I do I do think that the Pact Boons are good, but I kind of wish they'd swap them around a bit. Had a subclass feature at first level and the Pact Boon at third level, where if a paladin or whatever is gonna take the 3 levels needed to get the Pact Boon, then that's not really a problem there. They're properly committed by that point. So yeah, I do like the boons. I do like that. I do like the familiar actually. That's something I can talk about. The problem with the familiars in the player's handbook is that there were 4 new ones presented, and all of them had, I guess, thematic baggage to them. There was an imp which instantly marked you as a fiendlock. There was a quasit instantly marked you as a fiendlock. There was a sprite instantly marked you as a feylock, and there was a pseudo dragon. I don't remember the pseudo dragon being that good, but they tend to be, associated with fey. So if you wanted to really have a familiar worthy of a great old one, or or a celestial, or a fathomless, or a genie, you weren't getting it from the list they were giving you. So I do think it is good that they've got a templated familiar that does have some theming to do with the patron, but doesn't basically force you to pick an imp and just reskin it. So that's a change I like. So in conclusion, I do like the boons, but I really feel subclass at first, Pact Boon at third. I know what they were trying to do with the Pact Boon at first, but if you're gonna have Pact of the Blade there, it's just not good with the multi-classing the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on Pact Weapon, the new spell, which is a cantrip?
So thoughts on that specifically, other than what it right. So what it does for the warlock, the pure warlock. I think it's still good. Even for a warlock, I like that they get extra attack at 5th level. I'm still not convinced it's as good as Eldritch Blast though, especially is if you take Eldritch Blast with the Book of Shadows at 5th level, you get to add your spellcasting modifier to the damage rolls anyway, so you basically already get Agonizing Blast. And I feel that's always been a problem. They've tried to make the Warlock a Gish, so you've got to make melee weapons compete with Eldritch Blast, but Eldritch Blast is rather good. And they've always had this problem, and they've never really managed to solve it. This is just sort of their best attempt so far. Oh, and having Hex sort of prepared is fine. Hex is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But
it now means you can make a wisdom-based melee warlock and attack with your wisdom, right? Rather than your charisma now. It says when you attack with this weapon, you can use a spellcasting ability modifier for the attack and damage rolls.
That's right. It's probably a better choice because wisdom is a better saving throw.
Yeah.
But yeah. For me, the boon is fine, but it still inherits a lot of the issues with Eldritch Blast. I just don't think it's going to really get fixed. So I think it's just sort of that's the best we're getting, and it is at least decent enough for the Blade Lock to stand. I mean, basically until sort of 11th level when there is no third attack. Yeah, so that's my feeling on the Pat boons.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to add?
No. Well, except I wouldn't mind seeing all familiars be like that. Like just the Find Familiar where you get that template and it can look like whatever you want. Maybe you get like, you can pick a couple of abilities for it and then define what it looks like. Just for flavor wise. Again, that's just me. I like telling stories.
Imagine. Like I'm telling stories as a DM. Crazy.
Pun intended.
I just don't get it.
Imagine. Yes, thanks.
So let's do spellcasting changes. Because I guess this is a big, well, not a big rework, but like kind of a shift. So, your spell slots are no longer tied to short rest. Basically, I think a lot of the changes that they've been trying to make with these Unearthed Arcana documents is to move certain things away from short rests because they can be a bit of variance between game to game. So the spell slots now basically scale like a half caster does, and you can choose your spells from the the arcane spell list. We'll get into Mystic Arcanum because it ties in, but before we do, we'll leave it there, and I'll give Bex a chance to speak on that first.
So one of my first D&D characters was a Warlock, and I see a Warlock in almost all of my games. They're really fun to play. They have some of the coolest spells. Like, I think they have some of the absolutely coolest spells. Don't get to use them. You don't get to use them. Like, you can... Like, when you use them, they're big, they hit, but you just don't get to use them as much. And because of that, more often than not, I see Pact of the Blade. It was Pact of the Blade. That's all I would see. No, nothing wrong with Hexblade Warlock. They're good. They're great. They're busted sometimes.
They're overdone, like you said.
I love them. I love them to death. I love Warlocks to death. So I'm kind of happy to see that they have a little bit more ability to use those cool spells while still being able to do other fun Warlocky stuff. Because Warlocks have always felt like this, even though they have all these spells that can cast up to like 9th level, or like they could cast at max level, whatever you do. It just didn't feel like they were casters. They felt like quarter casters. Like they didn't even feel like half casters half the time. So I think it's a nice change. I think it definitely is different from what I know and like we know as a warlock. But I definitely think it's gonna allow people who see like, oh my god, this spell's so cool, and be able to actually use it more than like once and then holding out that one last spell for the emergency situation, you know?
I think it also gets around a couple of other problems that Pack Magic had, and that one was because you cast at the highest level possible, your spells have got to upcast, and some just don't. Misty Step just doesn't upcast. Misty Step is Misty Step, whether it's at 2nd level or 9th level, which isn't the end of the world. But then some also upcast poorly. Like, Command upcast great if you get it from being a Fiend Lock, because it's just one additional target for each spell slot. But when you look at something like Fireball at 3rd level is great. Fireball at 5th level is Fireball at 3rd level. Yeah, 8d6, 10d6.
I mean,
And then of course there are spells that upcast worse. And I've just got the Fiend Locks list stuck in my head. But Burning Hands upcasts poorly, so that has to be ditched. And it's that was always a problem with Pack Magic, where because it enforced upcasting, and the system wasn't built solely around upcasting. That was something they just sort of shoved in. For some spells it works better than others, but for some they just had it because everyone else is getting upcasting. That was so getting to cast spells at their proper level means that if you're a Hexblade with shields, you can actually use it. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And then, of course, the other problem was if your group just doesn't take that many short rests.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it fixes the warlock in the party after like every 10 minutes going, can we take a short rest? I need daddy to give me more spell slots.
I can't tell you how many times like I've been to campaign and someone's like, can we short rest? I'm like, I guess everyone's like, yeah, we could short rest. That's an hour of downtime in a dungeon. Like you're not getting a long rest, and you're lucky if you get a short rest. Like resource management, my favorite game.
Did Warlocks get more spell slots?
I think you muted Rhiannon.
Yeah, they get a max of 15 instead of 4. I think not. Yeah.
Yeah, 15. Since they have to prepare spells, they get access to more spells now and have a higher number of spell slots. Yeah, I can see them being more useful when it comes to spell casting, because you're right. Spell casting was supposed to be a focus of Warlocks, and the Hexblade was supposed to be more or less, an outlier, like a specific example, something to be different than a normal Warlock. But most people take Hexblade because it's the most useful of the Warlock flavors. So, in this case, again, it's about class identity. They're actually bringing back what a Warlock actually should be. So, it behooves you to actually take something other than the Hexblade.
Yeah. I think like one of the key things as well is that Warlocks are one of the most I think they're one of the most flavorful multi-classes that you could take for roleplay wise. Like a Warlock a multi-class can come in whenever, because thematically you can do something so intrinsic with that plot line. It can come about whenever it does. And the thing is, before they had spells, what was the point of it? You were getting like maybe 2, if you're a paladin, you're getting 2 extra divine smites and some eldritch blasts. You're not really going to want to use those because your divine smites are your big thing. Now with this, you've got like artificers who can multiclass into it with that intelligence space there. You've got so many extra spell slots that come into play that have access to the warlock spells, that you can then combine those and actually make something really, really cool and flavorful with that. So this makes that really flavorful multi-class become like meta in a way. Like you are now allowed to build it strategically instead of just roleplay wise and going, well, I've let myself down a bit like when it comes to my build, but thematically it works. Whereas now you've got a good balance over both.
It also adds that element to the patron approaching the player character of like, oh, I want to use your intelligence in my schemes.
Oh, that's so good.
You know?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, warlocks are awesome just because they already have that inbuilt plot line. Like, no matter what you add to your warlock's backstory, that deal you made is always a part of it. And you're right, as a multi-class character, that goes right into the actual role play. Your character makes that deal in game. They don't just like, oh, I'm going to take a level of warlock. Well, let's talk about that first. Who are you talking to get this level? Let's add that to the story.
It's really good. Like one of my characters, we were playing, and I ended up starting to make a deal, and my DM paused the game for a second and said to me, "You understand that the next level you take has to be Warlock now, right? Like by making this deal, you have to take a Warlock level. You sign this deal. That's the sign off." And I went, "Oh, bet, okay, sure."
Bet.
I was like, oh God. But then I was like, oh my God, I've suddenly got like consequences from this deal. This isn't just a little like role play thing. I think this now affects my character's build entirely.
Mm-hmm.
So it was that was really fun. And having this now, because like I'm a little bit of I like building characters that are gonna be good meta and stuff. I like being good. I love combat. So sometimes I let down on my roleplay side sometimes to build something that's good for combat. Now having this balance, it hits for me now perfectly. Like this is just delicious on all fronts.
Yep.
You and I are the exact opposite. I will sacrifice character strength in a build if it means I can go for the roleplay mode that I want or the aesthetic. My Dragonborn farmer, who is a paladin, could I have used a bigger weapon? Yeah. I used a trident.
Because it's a pitchfork.
Because it's a pitchfork! And I'm like, that has so much flavor, and I like it.
Pain.
Oh yeah, no, I'm so happy for you. And that's a choice everyone gets to make in this game.
I'm happy. I'm happy that the meta controls your life.
Just to interrupt, we have just got a raid from Explore the Beyond, so thank you to them. I hope you guys had a great stream.
Hello.
Welcome
Thank
in.
you.
Welcome
Hello.
in. We are just talking mechanics for the Warlock. And we're breaking it down. It looks like we all seem to agree that the new flavor of the Warlock is, let's just say, not every Warlock moving forward is going to be a Hexblade in your campaign. So yeah, we're pretty happy with what's going down here.
Give us more tentacle babies.
So let's segue into Mystic Arcanum though. So this is being brought down from 11th level, like I said. And basically what it says is now you choose one spell from the arcane spell list that has a level for which you qualify, as shown on the table. You can cast the chosen spell once without expending a spell slot, and you must finish a long rest before you can cast that again, basically. It's also repeatable as well. So, but basically to go through it, at Warlocks level 5 and 6, you can take a 3rd level spell. At 7 and 8, you take a 4th, 9th and 10th, you take a 5th, and so on and so forth till you get to 9th level. So it's addressing the issue that it has being a half caster while still giving it access to those level spells that full casters would get, just kind of at a little bit of a slight nerf, because you can only cast it once per day. So that's kind of the trade-off. But I think Matt, you are next in line for this one. So how do you feel on these Mystic Arcanum changes?
Let me actually look at it. That's on what page?
So you want the
Page 37.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Page 37.
37. Okay.
I think. Unless
Is
it's
it?
somewhere else.
The immediate second
There it
guess.
is. Yeah. There it is.
No, it's there. It is there.
Yep. Well, so I'm not sure how I feel about this. I mean, the warlocks are already kind of limited when it comes to spellcasting, so I can see that as being good. I think I don't know that it's that good. I think it could be better, but I'm not really sure how. I mean, it is with, an alignment to class identity, since that's our official like buzz phrase now.
My stomach's gonna get pumped tonight.
I'm just saying, it is another way for them to add the ability to, for more spells, more spell slots, things like that, their ability to cast. So again, it kind of lends into like not everyone has to be a Hexblade Warlock. I don't know. I'd like to actually hear Jack's take on this, since he drops the math like all over the place.
He does drop the math, yeah.
The math.
Go on then, Jack. The floor
I'm
is
just
yours.
saying, I don't know if it's that worth it. I mean, it is 5th level, and it does scale, but I don't know.
So my thought looking at it was that getting to have another spell added, that and I believe yes, so you get another spell added, and then you can cast it once without expending a spell slot. There were a bunch of features that more or less worked like that, that were added by Xanathar's and Tasha's guide. Xanathar's guide and Tasha's cauldron.
You got that.
There we go. There were also some that were supposed to be like that in the player's handbook. They were terrible. But I think the way that these Mystic Arcanums work is because they have spells that are greater than 5th level spells. You can get 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th level ones. Getting to cast, getting to add those is essentially a way of replicating what the Warlock could do previously. And the problem is, the Warlock got to do that for free. So if you compare how the Eldritch Invocations worked, Player's Handbook Warlock got 8 in the end. So this 1D&D Warlock gets 9. And then effectively, the way the Pact Boons work is you get an additional 1 at 5th level as part of the Pact Boon. The Book of Shadows is giving you Agonizing Blast. I believe it was Thirsting Blade that gave the Blade Block extra attack. So effectively, 1D&D Warlock has 10. But whilst they seem to have more Eldritch Invocations, the Player's Handbook one, as well as the 8 invocations, got the 4 Mystic Arcanum ones for free. So I get what they're doing, and I think it's good what they're trying to do. But I do feel that the effect of it does somewhat nerf the Warlock in that they're getting 2 fewer Eldritch Invocations. I appreciate what they're doing. I do like the Mystic Arcanum invocation, but I think the Warlock is going to need, some more invocations to compensate. Possibly they might actually be better off making Mystic Arcanum like a feature again and just splitting it off.
Yeah.
And just giving Warlocks the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th level spells they had before. Because I can't imagine it would be really optimal to build a Warlock without, taking those 4 invocations. Just because 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th level spells are really good. you're not going to find too many better Eldritch Invocations than the chance to do that.
Yeah.
So
And-
you know,
Right.
I like
and it-
I like Mystic Arcanum for the the 3rd, 4th, 5th level spells, but for the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th ones, that's got to be a feature, you know.
Yeah. You're essentially getting.
just to balance them.
Yeah, you're essentially getting what you were getting for free in the 2014 Player's Handbook, but now you have to spend Eldritch Invocations to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like even then, like when you spend it, like say you automatically, I'm going Mystic Arcanum, and then like you get that little bonus one for what the whatever pact boon you take. You're still at 8, technically. Like doesn't really change that much.
The cool
that's
thing
how-
about actually the Mystic Arcanum for the lower level ones, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th one, is you can actually get these spells before you be able to cast them normally. A 5th level Warlock can get a 3rd level Mystic Arcanum when they're only able to cast 2nd level spells.
Yeah, that's one
Wait.
of the cool things. It kind of makes up for that you're always throwing your full weight that you had with the previous Pact Magic feature, in that it kind of outranks where you currently are. So it feels like you're tapping into it. I think make it a class feature, but at a cost. Maybe it costs one of whatever your highest spell slot at the time is.
Yeah.
Do that. Yeah.
Okie dokie.
Mhm.
We'll move on to contact patron. So basically, you can now communicate directly with your patron. You always have the contact other plane spell prepared. You can cast a spell without expending a spell slot, and you automatically succeed on the saving throw. Once you cast the spell with this feature, you can't do so until you finish a long rest. Jordan, you are next in line to the throne.
Okay. So we're just fully leaning into Warlocks are sugar babies, right? Oh, fuck.
Did
Lightning.
you guys see that lightning just then as you said that?
Someone's patron's pissed.
Wow.
That was
Pissed off
me.
someone's patron.
What did you do, Rhiannon?
Oh, I don't know. That was so close as well.
Patron heard that and said,
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I just being able to like pick up the sending stone and fucking call your
I
sugar daddy.
maxed out my credit card. Can you please come? I need more spell
Exactly.
slots. Can I get a catnap, please?
As much as I'm joking about it, fucking love it. Your relationship, the thing with like the patron and warlock relationship is that a lot of DMs approached it very much like the cleric deity relationship.
Oh, divine intervention stuff, sort of thing.
Yeah. But having that sort of fixed mechanic of no, you have more of a direct line to your sort of host. It feels like it's adding a bit more of a distinction between the warlock and the cleric.
Helping the
And-
class identity.
Beat me to it, solidifying that class identity.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Like in any campaign that I've had like a warlock, like it's always been, at least with how I've had other DMs play it and how I've played it, a patron doesn't necessarily mean like a god. Like some warlocks don't revere their patron. It is either a contract made and bound, or not even like a partnership. Someone's lending you the power and you're doing stuff for them. You're an employee. Like it's less of this person is on a pedestal of like high honor. And some people view their like warlock patrons like that, and that's okay. But it's not meant to be as like cut and dry as like a religion with a religious text about how to practice and what to offer and all that. It is, this being is powerful enough to give you a sliver of that. here's the terms of our deal. And I think definitely having that route to communicate with something that has power but doesn't necessarily have so much divinity or whatever that they could just be like, yes, another one of my hundreds of followers. Like, I've seen a lot of people that are like, this patron has like a group of 6 people that follow him, and he works with those 6, or like they work for those 6 for whatever agenda it's pushing. But it's a pretty close working with, considering you only have 6 people against thousands of others. So I think it's good. I think it's a good one.
It's
Yeah.
the CEO versus the middle manager.
There might be a little bit of a
Yeah.
spoiler, but that is your description of it is very true in multiple of the games I run.
Listen, it's good. I'm using my big brain to the big thing.
So that is what's going on. It's just those players don't exactly know it yet.
Ooh, mysterious. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as well, God, my voice keeps going. But I think as well, like with the patron being contactable, it lends itself a lot more, of course, to that role play aspect and such there, but it also lends itself to the character. There are so many times, I think, when people who are warlocks and stuff who have patrons get lost in what their character's focus and actual aim is, because sometimes you're just like, am I just meant to be doing my own thing and they're just going to occasionally tell me what to do, or am I just a warlock? I've played games with people who've played warlocks where they've had like no interactions with their patrons whatsoever because it gets lost in the big plot of things and such. And sometimes it's hard for the DM to remember all these little bits coming into play sometimes if someone's warlock backstory isn't as attentive as what's currently going on for them and such. So having that and basically being, no, I want to call back to my patron, and making it a class feature rings in true to that, hey, let's swing this back around to the whole reason why you are the way that you are. Because it is not through, it's not like the ranger or the rogue or our expertise people. It's not through hard work and training like our strength, our barbarians and such. And it's not through a pure oath or a divine connection with your own faith. It is because you made a deal. You made a bargain. And it's going to come through whether you like it or not. Like, that has to ring true because it is part of the class identity. So yeah, having that there really does just draw it back to that. And I don't think it's fair to like, if I'm sure it's going to get comparisons to divine intervention. I don't think that's a fair comparison at all. Exactly what Beck said. Like, a patron is so much different than a god.
Mm-hmm.
They're entirely different entities. A patron could just be a really strong wizard down the road.
Yep.
Like, I think even in like Tasha's rules, it might have been Tasha's, that there was like the like little information about like a self patron. I'm like, what? being a patron just doesn't it like being a god. Like, when you think of a god, it's like concrete levels of power, and then just like your patron is just this guy. This guy. He's been alive for like a really long time, and here's a little bit of magic.
He's just a dude.
Next time I make a warlock in the Forgotten Realms, my patron is going to be Mordenkainen, and no one can stop me.
No one can stop you, and no one should.
Or you can do like I did on my
We love the
Wednesday
Mad
home
Mage
campaign and just make the characters warlock the actual overarching BBEG.
What?
Well, that's kind of spicy.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that happen. It was like the festering of it very early on. I'm sitting here, I'm talking to the DM afterwards. I'm like, I'm watching this happen. I see what you're doing. I see how it's lining up.
You know, it can also play into one of the things. I don't know if anyone wants to mention 20's Court of Fame Flowers, but Serena's character on that was a patron herself. Like, she was a patron of a warlock. And that was such an interesting aspect to see, because they basically played on the fact that her warlock could contact her at any time, and it was sometimes at the most inappropriate. She'd be like, oh my god, what is happening? And they're like, hi, can I get another spell up, please? I'm really struggling. And she's like, this isn't a good time right now. And having that play out, that was such a fun aspect, like something really fun to watch and witness, and it gave me so many ideas. And that's something that this can lend itself to really well, even for like DMs who want to play with how this patron gets to be. They don't have to be this overarching villain. They don't have to be the BEG. Really cool if they are, but they could just be some guy.
Some guy whose intentions may or may not align. A level 20 warlock being somebody else's warlock patron. And it's just like it's just trickle down power coming from the main source from like 70 years ago.
That
No,
is
trickle
literally
down
called-
economics doesn't work.
That is literally called
pyramid
a
scheme.
pyramid scheme. Your plot. That's the whole campaign name is the pyramid scheme.
No. You. It has to be like something that just vaguely alludes to it, like the Dark Pyramid.
Oh, and as far as like that campaign that I ran where the Warlock's patron was the BBEG, they had no idea until the second to last game of a 3.5 year long campaign. Had no idea.
Oh, for
I
real?
love
No
that.
idea.
Fuck.
Until they were actually facing it.
That's actually mental.
Yep, no idea. Like I'm talking like right up to the top of that game, they sat there before we actually played, postulating, coming up with ideas, and trying to figure out who the mastermind behind all of the shit I was throwing at them actually
Hey.
was.
You know all those fetch quests I told you should go on, and how I told you to keep them in your bag? That's our bag now. They're my Chaos Emeralds now.
So yeah, second to last game, they had no idea. Not until I actually introduced it.
That's so
Oh my
funny.
god, that's actually mental.
It's hilarious. That's great. That's great. It's always good to catch him off guard like that.
Mhm.
Okay,
In
Rhiannon,
short, this is great.
I'm going to give you double-headed to finish off because the one of them is really short, which is Hexmaster. You get that at 18th level. It allows you to cast Hex without expending a spell slot. And then at 20th level, you get to increase an ability score by 2 to a maximum of 30. And you gain the Epic Boon of the Night Spirit or another Epic Boon feat of your choice. How do we feel about these late-level features?
I'm a big fan of scaling. I'm a big fan of it. I think that being able to hexes super useful, great for strategic play. They bring the Warlock into a level where they can actually use their cantrips and spells in a strategic way, more efficiently. It's like you've got blood hunters and stuff who use their hexes strategically from the get-go, but they don't have those powerful spells behind it. They've got to make a lot of very risky rolls a lot of the time. This rewards Warlocks in a way, and it goes, hey, your cool spells and stuff, work out how to play them in a strategic manner, get some action economy in there and stuff, plan out how you're going to do this. I think that's great. I'd actually probably like to see it a little earlier, but then I'm like, oh, you see, I'm like, I'd like to see it earlier, but then I'm like, oh, but I love Contact Patron being there so early. So I think the payoff of having Contact Patron so early is that you get Hex a bit later, but I think it's a really, like, I think that's as good as it probably gets at that point, and that's just me being greedy. I think Epic Boon for this, a lot of other classes have cycled out their Epic Boons. I think this works really great. Again, I love some scaling. I think increasing ability scores and such when you reach that level 20 just maximalizes on the fact that you are now like god level. And I think the Warlock really rewards that. It's actually kind of disappointing seeing like the level 20 reward for Warlocks and like Bards, and then seeing what Rangers and Rogues got. Like Stroke of Luck is still like, it's still fun, but like I feel like in comparison with these, like gaining the Night Spirit, the boon of the Night Spirit, or another epic boon feat of your choice, like having that accessible there with an ability score increase. Like, why haven't rogues the expertise? Why have they not been given an ability score increase with an added bit there? So I think it's great for Warlocks. I think it's really, really good. It can make for some really, again, I fall into multi-classing because I love build multi-classes. This falls into a really good strategic build-up. Of course, you can't really hit level 20 at that point, but it means you can get as close as and such. And it works really, really well. And if you're going with something that doesn't have a great level 20 reward, multi-classing into Warlock to getting like that Hex boost, it makes perfect sense.
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
just like to say regarding your comment that you thought maybe Hexmaster should come earlier. It absolutely should. So I'm not going to rag on the spell Hex. It is some of the problems of Hunter's Mark, but it tends to be better for Warlocks and Hunter's Mark is for Rangers. So I'm not going to. But the point is, it's a first level spell, and in the player's handbook at 18th level, the wizard got one first and one second level spell that they could cast, at will, in the same way that the Warlock can with this one specified spell. So it's already not as good as the player's handbook 18th feature, that not only first level spell of your choice, but a second level too. In this very playtest, Wizards of the Coast, they took this wizard feature, this 18th level wizard feature, and put it at 15th level. So in other words, the Warlock's 18th feature is worse than the Wizard's 15th feature. Now, Hexmaster's not like a bad feature in its own right. I would be happy to shove that at 11th level, put Contract Patron down to 9th, which is where the clerics are getting commune and the druids are getting commune with nature.
Yeah.
And just have a good 18th level feature. Just because nothing wrong with Hexmaster, but it can't be an 18th feature if the wizard is getting a better one at 15th.
At 15th, that makes
It's not
Especially-
how
sense.
this works.
Especially
It's
because
not
they're
how
all
this works.
mages. They're all in the same mage class group. If they're trying to make things consistent with the class group, then you can't do that.
Well, I do not know how the playtest people could have had these features that are so obviously akin to each other, at different levels. I can only presume that the final discussion involved whoever wrote the wizard putting whoever wrote the warlock in a headlock and saying it's safe.
Well, they don't have
Giving
a
him a
jack,
boogie?
clearly.
Uh,
Maybe they should
Clearly.
hire a jack.
My
Listen,
first thought on reading
send this to
Hexmaster
them.
was, wait, doesn't the wizard get this? And then reading ahead and finding it gets it earlier. Cheers. Ugh. So anyway, that's going to get changed, mark my words.
Jack's already in the survey.
I think everyone was in the survey about that.
I have one more thing to add to the 20th level thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been most of the other classes, like the classes that are in UA6, no longer have the epic boon at 20th level. They say that they're moving away from that from all the classes, so I don't think this is going to be the final version of the Warlock. I think make the epic boon feats, just change one thing. Their prerequisite is now level 19, and then we get 20th level features for all of the classes.
Hopefully ones that don't suck.
I
Yeah.
It's an ASI level already. They can
I
just
think,
convert it.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
I think the 20th level Warlock feature should be a choice of 3 epic invocations.
Oh, I like that.
That sort of
Mm.
full, your patron has lent you so much of their power that you take on part of their aspect.
That's very cool. Ties into the roleplay aspect of what we're talking about with the bard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like playing off the ability, the whole thing with the patron, is that by the time a warlock hits level 20, their patron might should be worried. This is I think the Sith rule of 2, where it's I really don't need
Nice.
you anymore. I'm my own patron. And just they
Right.
steal their power. I think that story-wise could be pretty interesting.
Yeah. There's always that push and pull between the warlock and their patron. And as they get higher, the warlock's ability to push back against their patron gets stronger and stronger until that's it. They don't need them anymore, sort of thing. Maybe that's it. 20th level released from your contract, you get to keep your power.
Oh, that would be cool.
Ooh.
And also you would be literally getting rid of your contact patron thing. Unless it's like, you're feeling like having a conversation with your ex-patron while you're sitting on the loo somewhere. Like, oh, I just wanted to call, see how you're doing. What's going on? Sorry, I don't need you anymore.
You know what? This is a complete side note, but like, and I know like we're not talking about subclasses, but I'd really love to see a subclass for warlocks, which is similar to the Oathbreaker for paladins, but for losing their contract. Because I feel like all of the warlock classes rely on the contract being there until the very end. It'd be really fun if we got something that was similar to the Oathbreaker, where where paladins break their oaths and they get like a whole new subclass in that sense. Warlocks, when they break their contract or they lose their contract or are released early or something.
Call it like Unbound.
Unbound.
Apostate.
Yeah.
Apostate, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I think that'd be really, really sick. That'd be a really cool subclass to play off of.
Yeah.
We're homebrewing that at some point.
Maybe we don't have to. We just send them the VODs. Like, here, just here. Fix it.
Yeah. Whenever this goes live on YouTube, just everyone get in the fucking comments. Send this straight to the directing team at fucking Wizards of the Coast.
Give it a jazz.
Literally.
Okay. Any final thoughts on Warlock before we wrap up the stream and transition to outro?
I just look forward to seeing Warlocks that don't come at you with a sword.
I mean, yeah, similar to the Ranger thing. You're currently playing a Warlock. How would you feel playing this version of the Warlock, Sammy?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that a bit more.
Ooh, is Adelheid a Warlock?
Well, you knew that.
Yeah, I did.
You
Listen,
knew that.
I just want more tentacle warlocks. I just think it's spicy. I think it's funny. Funny and spicy.
We're getting a deep insight into Rhiannon's brain here.
It's not great.
I hate that the tentacle warlocks do abbreviate like Great Old One to Goo Warlocks.
Warlocks.
Goolocks.
Gulocks, there you go.
Terrible, horrible.
I love it.
Okay. So that is going to be the end for today. So we've covered the Bard, the Ranger, the Rogue, and the Warlock, which basically completes our coverage of UA6. Our next planned stream will do the rest of the classes in UA5 that we haven't went over. So that is the Wizard, the Sorcerer, the Fighter, and the Barbarian. So obviously get ready to check those out whenever we do the next one of these. They're currently sporadic, but hopefully it'll be soon. I just want to take a second just to thank all the DMs here. I just think you guys showed how knowledgeable and how diverse your opinions are today, and I'm really thankful for that and thankful for your time and your knowledge. You guys all bossed it, especially Rhiannon. First stream, you came in all guns firing.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
Welcome.
You said that in a way that made me think like, oh, I now can't leave.
No,
you're
can't.
stuck with us now. It's
Like
that's
the
it.
ringmaster at a circus, where it's like, you're in
Yes.
now, you're gone.
That's right.
One
That's
of
right.
us. One of us.
Yeah, you're like a carny now.
Oh god,
More
part of the
than
ship, part of the
3
crew.
rings.
Part of the ship, part of the crew. Yeah.
So, yep. We're more like a clown car, I think, though. We just cram all these ideas into one small space. I will say that I am very proud of us dealing with the Ranger, because we all contributed a piece to that and made something like worth playing. So
Yeah.
so
When
yeah,
you
that
guys
was
go
brilliant.
submit your survey, just copy paste it from the
Yes. Oh, exactly.
from the chat.
Actually, yes.
Heck
Okay.
yeah.
So we'll go around, plug yourself, tell people where they can find you, any other D&D projects that you've got going on, so on and so forth. We'll start with our newest member today, Rhiannon. The floor is yours. Plug away.
I'm at Rhilentless on literally everything. You can find me as a player over on Tales of Novum on YouTube, and you'll look up at the Bard. And I'm part of the Heroes of Bastion, where we're playing a Masks TTRPG, which is pre-recorded. And if you want to watch more streams tonight, in about an hour, I will be on another stream called Fathoms Below, which is a D&D homebrew world where I'm playing a mermaid, and it's all underwater, D&D 5e, and that will be at World Tree Quest on Twitch.
Nice.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Bex?
Thanks.
Me?
You.
So hi. I'm not on too many things right now, but occasionally, tried more often than not, I am on a friend's channel, streaming Avernus, twitch.tv/rhilentless_zen. And hopefully soon, if I can say it, Jordan, I'll be joining Bridges and Brigands with Sam, Matt, Jordan. Is anyone else in this call here? No.
Hila's been in the chat though.
Yeah.
Hi. I'll be joining you guys every third Sunday of the month with a character that I'm not going to disclose too much information about yet.
Secrets.
More secrets. You'll get to
More
hang out with Templeton. Templeton's a
I
wonderful
will.
human
I
being.
have watched I've watched 2.5 of the full 5-6 hour VODs. Piecemeal on 1.5 times speed because my brain works that fast and I need to have it work that fast. I've watched through all of it, not even skipping the combats. I'm like, I'm ready. Right.
Nice.
That's me.
The mammoth sessions.
Speaking of Bridges and Brigands, that'll be a good segue into Jordan. Take the floor.
Yes, hello, I'm Jordan. I'm the DM of Bridges and Brigands, where I DM Matt and Sammy and soon to be Bex, hopefully in the August episode if everything goes well. And yeah, we play third Sunday of the month. It's fun. It's homebrew world. We've been stealing some bits and pieces from the 1D&D stuff, so that like everybody gets the first level feat based on their background stuff, and it's been fun to play with.
Nice. We'll go Jack.
I'm Jack. You can find me on the Fate of the Dice Twitch channel, where I DM a bi-weekly Curse of Strahd. Our next session is going to be the 6th of August.
Perfect.
And hopefully I'll be on the next session of this.
You will. I'll go next before I leave it to Matt, since he is the HBIC on the situation. I am Sammy, or Sam. You can find me on Instagram at Sammy by the Gram, also Threads at the same at. And you can find me on Twitter at Sammy on the Bird. You can find me on my own Twitch channel at Sammy Got a Twitch. Like I said at the start of the show, I play in Matt's Saturday game, Strixhaven, A Curriculum of Chaos, where I play the Frost Elf Blade Singer, Charlotte Briarsong. She's just a wee small bean. And you can catch me every third Sunday of the month over on Bridges and Brigands, where I play the, funnily enough, the Hexblade Warlock that is Adelheid, who is also a half-drow. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, thank you, Matt, for giving me the opportunity to host again, I guess.
Thank you
It's always
for
a fun
being
time.
the host and taking the reins.
Well, yeah, we'll say the full name. Okay. I get embarrassed. That's why I don't do it anymore. So Adelheid's full name is Countess Adelheid Elvanis von Zigrak Aya II.
Gesundheit.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like it might take a cream to cure.
She is the HBIC. But yeah, Matt, take us out.
I'm Matt. I am RolePositiveGaming. You can pretty much find me anywhere that you find RolePositiveGaming on all platforms and social media. And If you want to know more about the games that I run, see the schedule, etc., and find out more about Role Positive Gaming and what we're all about, join the Discord because we have a whole bunch of stuff going on all the time. So yeah, make sure you follow all my socials and join the Discord, become part of the family there. I run multiple campaigns that I stream. I am going to be branching out into other systems beyond D&D. As like one and short shots that some will be streamed, others might end up directly on my YouTube channel. So look for things like Werewolf the Apocalypse 5th edition and the Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars system, two of my favorites. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that stuff that's coming up. I opened my commissions if you'd like to hire me as a dungeon master to run a one shot for you and some friends. So you can check that out down below. And as far as playing goes, I actually get to play as a player in the Bridges and Brigands game every third Sunday of the month as Templeton Fogg, who is a lovely, innocent, and quite naive wizard who suffers from a terrible case of premature evocation and has a tendency to actually set things on fire. So...
I got theories about you, by the way. I was like, Sam, come here. I gotta tell you this.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have theories about Templeton, but if you'd like to see and interact more with him, you can find me every third Sunday on the Bridges and Brigands channel. So other than that, that's it for me, I think. Check out the charity that we're supporting. There are goals and stretch goals that we have. Again, you can find it on our Discord, and it's the Trevor Project. So check down below. There's a link there. And Sammy, if you could just throw in, yeah, you did. Never mind.
I am hosting and modding today.
You are on that shit. So
on fire.
So yeah, that's it for me, guys. Thank you all for being here. I love these roundtable talks. I'd love to expand it and bring in more people too. Because as far as I'm concerned, with this overlay, I built it so that I can make room. I'd love to see hear more voices and get more opinions, because I think we actually made an impact today. Especially with the Ranger. Let's get that shit fixed.
Yeah.
So thanks again, and welcome to the group and the family, Rhiannon. So you guys are all awesome.
You guys too.
No crying. There's no crying in D&D. Okay, there's a lot of crying in D&D.
There's a lot of weeping in D&D. Okay.
I'm
trying really hard not to.
D&D.
Get back in there, Tyr.
So that's it. I think we're gonna end it here because I know people have to bounce, and yeah. Everybody, wave goodbye. Say see you later. Thanks for coming, everyone, and we will see you in the future.